Robert Neville, a brilliant scientist, is a survivor of a man-made plague that transforms humans into bloodthirsty mutants. He wanders alone through New York City, calling out for other possible survivors, and works on finding a cure for the plague using his own immune blood. Neville knows he is badly outnumbered and the odds are against him, and that all the while the infected wait for him to make a mistake that will deliver him into their hands. Welcome to another feature presentation of Midnight Double Feature, and on this episode we'll be covering 2007's I Am Legend, directed by Francis Lawrence. Well, hello. Welcome back to Midnight Double Feature. As you heard on tonight's feature presentation episode, we are covering I Am Legend, Will Smith, Apocalypse, Vampires, Batman vs. Superman. It's all right here. And with me, normally would be Zoheb, but we're pulling the old switcheroo on you. I got old knick-knack, paddywhack, Matt Vella with me. Vanilla Vella, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Barry. Yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm just taking a sip of my energy drink here. I'm ready to go. I'm pumped. I'm ready to talk about I Am Legend. Very, very different movie from the last couple. You and I have been doing kind of the Child's Play thing, which is fun. We like doing those. We're like, you know what, fuck it, let's do some I Am Legend. Zoheb doesn't give a fuck about this movie. No, I'm just kidding. He had some thoughts that he asked me to kind of briefly go over, and we'll definitely will when we're doing opening impressions. But before we jump into everything, just a little bit of the regular housekeeping. If you guys want to check us out outside the show on any of our socials, you can find us on Facebook at Midnight Double Feature. There's also the group attached to that called The After Party. Everybody's invited. You can find us on Instagram at Midnight Double Feature. You can find us on Twitter at MDF Pod, or you can shoot us an email, midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. Please stop by, rate and review us on iTunes or whatever platform that you use. Just let us know how we're doing. If you have any constructive criticism or any kind of requests or anything, just give us an email. Let us know how we're doing. We always love to hear back from you guys. But with that out of the way, let's jump into I Am Legend. Matt, you and I both kind of were just like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do I Am Legend. There's nothing. I don't absolutely love this movie. I don't hate this movie. I think this is a great middle of the road. It's not perfect, but it is pretty good. But what are your thoughts on I Am Legend? What kind of, when did you first see this? What led you to, want to cover this?
I'll be honest, I have no fucking idea. I do recall I had it on, so I don't collect DVDs anymore. Since streaming came along, I was like, I don't need this anymore. I'm one of the very few movie buffs out there who don't have an entire gigantic library of 1 billion DVDs they haven't watched yet. But this, I remember having this on DVD back in the day, watched it a few times, and I remember I really liked it back then, but I haven't seen it in over 10 years, maybe even 15.
Sure.
So watching this again with brand new fresh eyes, picked up on some stuff I didn't realize before. Also, when you're younger, you overlook a lot of the shitty things in films sometimes. That's definitely happened with the last couple of films we reviewed, and this is the same here. I'm like, oh, hey, I didn't remember. I forgot I remember that being cooler or whatever. But it's a nice, it's interesting movie. Because I think while the plot is very bare bones, it's not the script that makes this interesting. It's a cool actor's showcase for Will Smith. And I think the biggest character of this is the environment, the city. It's in these massive, American places with just empty and the fucking apocalypse is there. And when I think of apocalypse films, I don't really think of Mad Max Fury Road where everything's a desert. I think of these cities that used to be bustling with life, which aren't now. And you don't really get a lot of films that do that well. And this does. And that's definitely my favorite thing about this film. I'll probably go over my thoughts more as we go along, but it's a good watch. It's a fun watch. It looks very 2007, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I think there's a bit of charm of that era of the 2000s where the contrast is always a certain way in the colors, and that makes me very nostalgic. But yeah, I think it's a fun film. I don't have a lot to say about this movie other than just I like it.
Sure. No, dude, no, I'm very much so in the same boat. I remember when this came out, this is very, very popular where I live. Like, I know a lot of people that own this movie. I know a lot of people that have seen this movie. I mean, it did gangbusters at the fucking box office, made like $600 million. I mean, it was a huge success. And what's interesting is how this never became like a franchise, and we'll definitely get into that, why there was never even a sequel. Because the thing is, this is a book by a guy named Richard Matheson. Richard Matheson wrote the really famous episode of Twilight where he's like, there's something on the wing of the plane. Like, he wrote that, the one that William Shatner's in. He wrote Duel. He wrote a lot of really good shit. Richard Matheson is a huge influence on Stephen King, Steven Spielberg, Anne Rice, like a lot of modern day directors and authors. Richard Matheson was a huge, huge influence on those people. This is very, very different from the I Am Legend book. And I'm not going to go over every single, the book was written in 1954. There's going to be a lot of differences between a 2007 adaptation and a book from the 50s.
Right,
Especially
you mean
ending.
Shrek wasn't around 1954?
Right. Yeah. Wait, you mean 3 Men and a Baby wasn't around then? No, I'm just kidding. But, there's definitely a lot of meat on the bone. I think you said something kind of perfect off air. It's like, there's not a lot of like deep analysis and symbolism in this movie. It's an action flick. It's kind of post-apocalyptic. There's definitely some stuff to talk about here. Otherwise we wouldn't be covering it, but it's not like we're covering something like, fucking Prisoners or, Nightcrawler. It's not a deep dive into something. This is, I don't want to say this is a popcorn flick because it's better than that, but this is definitely it's an action movie, but at the same time, it's a very patient action movie. There's a lot of stuff where it's like, we don't have action scenes every 30 minutes. We don't have shoot 'em ups. We barely have a cast. We have like 3 or 4 people and that's it. I think that's awesome. A very minimalist cast.
The best performance is arguably by a dog, which is such a good boy.
Yeah, I fucking love Sam, man. But I can't tell you the first time that I saw this. I have read the book. I like the book a lot more just because the ending of it is just top notch. It's like it sticks to the landing amazingly as a book. It's really, really well done. But as far as Will Smith, I don't mind Will Smith. He's pretty good in this. I've just never really understood the Will Smith hype. He's a great actor. There's nothing wrong with him, but I've never understood the whole, like, him being as popular as he is. I just don't think he's that. I feel like this would be great as like a Jamie Foxx film. Jamie Foxx is the one that I'm like, dude, why is Will Smith as popular? And don't be wrong, I'm not taking anything away. Jamie Foxx is still popular, but I feel like they're on different kind of levels. And I feel like Jamie Foxx should be Will Smith level of like successful. And he's done some great shit. Don't get me wrong.
This would be such a different film if it was Jamie Foxx in the lead. Like, I don't know.
For sure.
I'm not saying for better or for worse, but it would have such a different vibe. I'm having trouble imagining it, to be honest, which is usually hard for me.
Oh, man, I feel like
this movie, it's so... I don't want to say it's so Will Smith, because that's definitely not a typical role he would take, but it's very, like, so much of Will Smith's DNA is in that character. And partially the reason is Will Smith isn't really an actor who plays characters. He plays himself in every role.
Yes. Yes.
In every film, there's always a scene where he's like, "Oh, hell no," or something like that. There's always him. Like, he's a lot like Dwayne Johnson, where he's kind of always like he's always like this close, just winking at the camera at all times. Except I give him a lot more props than Dwayne Johnson in the acting department, because man, when Will Smith looks sad, like I always buy it. Like, I think his charisma, he really brings that to a lot of his roles. And this is before he did a series of misses. But yeah, like I do agree with you what you said there about Jamie Foxx, but man, sorry, I'm just on a complete tangent now. I'm just trying to imagine what it would be like if Jamie Foxx or anyone else starred in this film, because it's such a Will Smith movie in my... It's like saying, what if Jamie Foxx was the star of The Fresh Prince,
Well, Jamie Foxx had a sitcom called The Jamie Foxx Show in the 90s. Like, that was a thing. Like, it wasn't anything like...
Are you fucking with me, or is that legit?
No, that's legit. That was a real show. I remember watching that when I was a kid.
Idea.
I mean, it wasn't great, but my thing is like Will Smith is like, you know, he'll do something like I, Robot or like I Am Legend, but he turned down The Matrix and Django. And it's like, dude, and he turned down Django because he's like, Django's not the main character. King Schultz is. It's like, who cares? It's a great character, man.
But again, these level movie stars, it's got to be about them. Will Smith, Tom Cruise, Dwayne Johnson, they're the main three that come to my mind. But like they always play themselves because it's not a film production. It's based around them. The only time I think Tom Cruise has ever tried to be anything not like himself was like
Tropic
10
Thunder.
10 minutes of screen time with Tropic Thunder, which is his best fucking role.
Well, and my thing is like, you know who, if they made this today, the first person I would pick, Michael B. Jordan. That's the first person I would pick to be this doctor.
That I would watch the fuck out. That I can imagine.
Yes.
I don't. Maybe it's because he's kind of like the modern day Will Smith in a way, but like he can really fit into those roles. But fuck, Michael B. Jordan's watchable as shit. He's fucking
God, he's
great.
so good, dude. I was talking to Carlos Freitas from Hey Do You Remember? Hashtag shout out. Love that show. Carlos and I were talking about, you know, what would be a great, you know, superhero films that haven't been made. And I was like, dude, Batman Begins, Michael B. Jordan is Terry McGinnis, Michael Keaton is Bruce Wayne. I was like, I would love to see Michael B. Jordan as like Batman, you know, because the whole thing with Batman Beyond is like, you don't know if it's Batman under there. It takes up, you know, you don't know who that could be, a woman or a, you know, an Asian person, black, white, man, woman. It doesn't matter because the whole bodysuit covers that up. And I think that's what's great about Batman Beyond is it kind of like it could be anybody in there. And I love that, you know, with Batman though, it's like,
that, but imagine how racist Twitter would react. I mean, they freak out when you make a male a female or something. You get someone as iconic as Batman and not even like the mainline Batman. And you're still putting Mark Keaton. I hate the fact that we live in this world where some people will freak out that much about it, but they would. But maybe because it's someone as amazing as Michael B. Jordan, it might shut up some people. Fuck, I would watch that though. I would watch that. I'd watch anything he's in, honestly.
Dude, yeah. Well, I think about the transition of Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales. You know, it's like I think that was a great kind of, I don't want to say progressive and be like kind of, you know, throwing that term around, but as good as that movie is, and nobody gave a fuck it wasn't Peter Parker. You know, Peter Parker's a minor character in that, but there's so many, there's Spider-Gwen, there's Spider-Ham, there's like so many different versions of him. But I think that was a great, because I remember, you know, there's Miguel O'Hara, who's like Spider-Man 2099. There's like all these different Spider-Men from different universes. So I think that was a great kind of push forward of like, listen, these characters don't have to be this person all the time. And I think that's the most important thing. Getting back to this movie, I do really enjoy this movie. I think this movie, I like exactly what you said. The environment is a character. This is like that show. I think there's a show where it's like, what happens if humans just left Earth and everything got overgrown and all this to like that. This is a great masterclass on like what the world would look like, because like what you said, we have Mad Max, you know, this is like the American equivalent of 28 Days Later. You know, this is the guy wakes up and the city's abandoned and stuff like that, and that totally makes sense to me. It's like, but the thing that I really like about this movie is the meat on the bones is the sense of isolation, the sense of like going crazy, the cabin fever in a city though. It's like, because you're the only person. And the fact that this guy is, I mean, he could leave, he could go somewhere else, but he's like, I have to find the cure. I have to fix this because I promised that I fix it. I think that's great. It's an interesting character. It's weird seeing Will Smith kind of like aged up because he's got like the gray in his hair, but then in the flashbacks, he's like totally young. And I was like, dude, that's crazy. I didn't think Will Smith aged. But I do enjoy this movie. It's not my favorite movie of all time, but it's definitely something that like, this would be a great like family film. You know, it would be everything from like a great end of the world kind of film to something you could sit down with your kids and watch because it's suspenseful, but it's funny. And then it gets heartbreaking. Like it goes through a lot of different things. And I can really appreciate it about this. And I love the fact that they touch on his isolation and just how alone he is. I really, really love that.
This movie really doesn't spoon feed you that stuff. Like it's very like they just try and make it obvious and you can just take it how you want. If you choose to look deeper, you can find some stuff there. But like it is very minimalist at the same time as it being kind of deep. But what I like about it is like, and you sort of touched this before, where I mentioned it's kind of like a popcorn flick. It sits in this weird middle area, which I feel like nowadays is very rare to see. Nowadays, it's either it's an indie flick or it's a blockbuster $1 billion film. There's no in between. But this is like a great example of, it's kind of in the middle where it's got these like themes and pacing of like a much more mature film, but it's got like the this look and feel and VFX, at least for its time, and charismatic lead actor of like a popcorn film. So it's kind of like nicely in between the two. And that's why, like I said, I think it could work with a variety of an audience of various ages and backgrounds and things like that. And I think that's that 4-quadrant demographic crowd pleaser. It's kind of rare, I'd say. So yeah, shouts to I Am Legend.
Hell yeah, dude. I say we just go ahead and jump right into this shit. Dude, when this started, I was fucking mind blown. I was like, wait, Emma Thompson? She's in this movie? And I was like, no, she's in this movie for like 40 seconds. Like, that's it. I'm sure this was like, hey, I'm cashing in that favor. You know, like this is, I wonder, did she do this as a favor to somebody? You know, it wouldn't surprise me at all if she's like uncredited, honestly. But I'd love Emma Thompson. I think she's fantastic. I have a huge crush on that woman based on her voice alone. Like, I would smash that shit. I love Emma Thompson. She's so hot. But she plays Dr. Crippen right here, and she's actually the one the disease is named after, the Crippen virus. It's like, oh shit, like that's kind of crazy. But it sucks how this movie starts on such an upbeat, and it's like we've had 10,009 cases of cancer, and we've cured all of them. You've cured cancer. She's like, yeah, we have. And then boom, 3 years later, it's fucking like borderline Mad Max. You're like, oh my god, what happened? What did you think about this opening? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, I think it's, you know, I think at the time it wasn't generic, but nowadays the whole thing of opening on like news reports and stuff, it's a little overdone now. Maybe not so much at the time, but I think it's a great way to quickly jump to the solution, because I think what you don't want to do, and I think it's something that The Walking Dead had to deal with in its early seasons. Another film about, you know, the remains of society is like they don't really want you thinking too much about why. Like, it is a thing, but it's like they don't want to get into details of that too much. So yeah, it's a thing of a cancer, blah, blah. I am curious, though, if they were to make this movie nowadays, I imagine it might be a bit touchy in the political correctness terms of like sort of demonizing cancer or cure like that. I don't know. It makes me feel a little weird, which I think would have been fine at the time. Maybe I'm just being too sensitive and I'm just a snowflake. I don't know. But I do like this sudden jump of going from a positive note to just nothing.
Right.
And that shot, those shots you get of just the emptiness of the world. It's exactly what I was talking about. Just like, fuck. And it's, for the most part, like a lot of it is practical, which is kind of insane. That's why the budget was so high. Pretty cool.
Right. Well, I mean, fuck, 3/4 of that budget was Will Smith's salary. You know that shit. And of course, his
like that.
Well, in every movie, he like sneaks a kid in there. Like his daughter in this is Willow Smith, and I'm like, dude, stop cramming your fucking kids in movies. Nobody cares. Like, no one likes Jaden. Fuck off. Like, no, I'm just kidding. He's okay. I just think that kid's kind of crazy sometimes. But
you know what? Jaden loves the fact that you think that. Like, that's what he wants you to think. And if Jaden Smith, if you listen to the podcast right now, we know how excited you just got when Colin said that you're like crazy.
Right.
We just know that we know, okay? So
well, and now I see like on Facebook Watch, they have like a talk show where it's the Will Smith family sitting around a table like, I don't give a fuck what these people have to say. Like, they're so far removed from my life and what I like. No way. These people are fucking like weird.
Side fact, right? I'm gonna come up with some knowledge I only found out recently. You and me, both fans of the genre of metal music. Did you know Jada Pinkett Smith fronted a nu metal band?
Oh my God! What? No, I did not.
Swear to God, they toured. She was the lead singer. It's full on metal. I can't remember the name of the band, but definitely look it up. It will blow your fucking mind. Like, they have multiple music videos. They played Ozfest.
Everything. Are they any good?
It's not kind of my thing. Like, although I do like nu metal, but like it's they were signed to a label, which is kind of crazy to think, like, sort of like the clean rapper Will Smith, literally married a metalhead.
Well, and the thing is, like, what's crazy is, as big as Will Smith is, I like Jada Pinkett way more. I think she's a much better actor, to be completely honest. She kills all the shit, even her brief shit in like Scream 2, or like she pops up in The Matrix. Like, I love Jada Pinkett Smith. I think she's fantastic. But Will, I'm like, dude, this guy is like so overblown. Like, it's like Leonardo DiCaprio. I was talking to somebody about that. Like, I don't mind Leonardo DiCaprio. I just don't think he's as good as people blow him up to be. Like, I really don't. Like, he's okay. He's great. But I feel like, as big as Leo is, like, I feel like for his talent, he's way blown up beyond that. Like, What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Fantastic. But like, Michael Fassbender should be like,
it's Leo. It's Leo, though.
I know. That's the thing, though. It's Leo. And it's like,
all
dude,
our listeners are like logging off. We've lost all credibility.
I know. Dude, trust me.
That's like saying Tarantino sucks. You're not allowed to do that. It's against the law. Even if you don't like him, you have to like him.
I know. And that's my thing. Is like, I don't dislike Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm just saying, again, it's like, dude, it's like you're kind of the same guy in a lot of shit, like, and a lot of stuff, man.
I'm like that with Rebel Wilson. Like, I don't understand her hype. Like, some people fucking love Rebel Wilson, and it's like, I don't get, like, shout outs to another Aussie, shout outs, girl. Right. I respect you, but like, I don't understand why you're the face of so many fucking things.
Dude, well, it's like Denzel. I love Denzel Washington. He is like the same dude in a shit ton of movies, like John Q, Remember the Titans, The Equalizer. Like, he's the same dude in a lot of shit. And it's like, you don't see him pulling like a Gary Oldman. It's like Gary Oldman is like, who is he this time? Who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, Denzel goes in those categories of actors I was saying that just play themselves every time. But you know what? There's an audience for that. Like, if I want to go see, Jim Carrey's kind of the same. He very rarely plays someone outside of him, or Adam Sandler. But like, if I want to see an Adam Sandler film, 9 times out of 10, his fans, they want to see Adam Sandler being the familiar Adam Sandler they get. Like, the people who grew up watching Billy Madison, a lot of them aren't going to like Uncut Gems, which is insane because Uncut Gems is fucking great. And I'm sure we'll get covered on the podcast as a feature one day. But, so some It's like if you're into a band, right? Like, let's say you're really into, I don't know, man. You're really into fucking
Coldplay.
Limp Bizkit. Let's say Limp Bizkit, right? You want to hear him? You want to hear Fred Durst rapping over shitty like riffs that go really well, that go down really well, some Monster Energy drink, right? But then if out of nowhere, like, they come up with some acoustic song and it's like about like meaningful relationships and respecting women, half their fans can be like, "What the fuck is this shit? It's not what I signed up for when I wanted to hear." I can't
punch holes in drywall to this.
Exactly. Like, the Kyles would not be down for it. Or it's like if the Beatles came out with a record that sounds like Slayer, or fucking, or you know what, we saw this very recently with I'm a big music fan, Eminem. He had this album called Revival where he tried to get really political, and he had like a lot of like soft rock inspired beats, and all of his fans from like the 8 Mile days like, this is barely rap, what the fuck are you doing? And it tanked him, and he had to come back. He had to like pretty much reinvent himself to make a comeback.
A lot of like My Chemical Romance's last album was like synthesizers and shit, and I was like, what the fuck? And you kind of have to detach yourself and say, if this was not a Beatles album or Eminem or My Chemical Romance, is this still a good album, or is this still a good movie? And it's like, you kind of have to. I think it's important for people to detach themselves from that. They're like, don't start expecting the same thing, because like, we don't put the same podcast out every couple weeks. We kill ourselves. I wouldn't do that shit. It's like, don't expect the same thing.
Like. Some of them are actors who are chameleons and blend into different roles, and they're like the ones that like often win a lot of Oscars. And then there are a lot of other actors who are brands. Another one, Seth Rogen. Love him, but how many movies have you seen him? Or he's trying nowadays to branch out, but 8 times out of 10, he's smoking weed and making pop culture references.
It's like what Seth Rogen tried to do, Jonah Hill did. Like Jonah Hill is actually kind of like getting away from that kind of stuff. And I was like, dude, props to him. Jonah Hill's a good actor. He's not just the curly haired stony dude. Like, let him get out of some stuff. But back to this fucking movie.
That's how much we're avoiding talking about it. let's talk about music for 20 hours.
Right. Yeah. So basically we see that they've cured cancer, but not quite. Psych. So the pro is you cured cancer. The con is you made like super mutants, I guess. It's crazy. But it makes sense.
Let's talk about the super mutants real quick, because it's going to come up throughout the whole thing. So when I first watched this movie, I remember back in the day, I was like, oh, it's zombies, but they're clearly not zombies. They're kind of like a mix between like Imhotep from The Mummy with the mouth dropping, big opening.
Yes.
And back around this time, like everyone was trying to rip off The Mummy. There are so many movies from this time where the mouth just gets really big for no reason when someone yells. But they weren't always like this. Like in the original book, they were more like vampires or something, right?
No, they are vampires, like 100% in the book. They are vampires, like holy water, garlic crosses, all that shit.
And all that's gone in this movie.
Well,
how
and
do
the
you
thing
feel
is
about that because you read the book and you love the book, right?
I don't mind it because they're zombies, but they're not. They're vampires, but they're not. They're mutants, but they're not. They're kind of like, they're just devolved humans with some weaknesses to sunlight. That's it. Like that's like, they're super fast. They're super strength. It's kind of like they're World War Z zombies mixed with like a little bit of vampire mixed with a little bit of Imhotep. And I'm like, I'm okay with that. Like, it's actually like the super mutants from the Fallout franchise. Like, I don't mind that. Like, that seems, I'm cool with it. They are a little generic. They're just, but the thing is, their traits basically, and I delved into this because they made like an off comic that was like I Am Legend, like the comic book. And that's the only thing. They've never made animated movies. They've never tried to do a sequel for real. But basically, what this did was it cured cancer, but it like gave them like an advanced form of rabies. And I was like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. Like all the hair falls out, and like they're it kind of makes sense that they're just rabid basically. And it's basically the rage virus from 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
Which I like 28 Days Later way more than this movie, but this is the closest thing we'll get to like an American equivalent of that movie, So I don't mind I think they call them like what, Dark Seekers in this, which is stupid. Don't name them. That's fucking dumb.
I see multiple different things online. There's one that starts with C. It's like Krista. What was it called? I'll find it later. But there's another name. Oh, hemocytes. There's Dark Seekers, and they're also known as hemocytes. And then there's mutants, and I hear different other names all over the place. But I just want to quickly say, real quick, I want to put this out in the world. I'm mad at zombie movies not willing to admit they're zombie movies. I think there's like some weird stigma. And how many good, serious zombie movies can you think of? Maybe there's Dawn of the Dead and maybe World War Z, and that's it. Everything else is like something, they're like almost zombies, but they're a little bit different. And I Am Legend is like the pinnacle example of that. But like I just miss seeing good zombie movies. They're always like they're almost zombies. I just stop teasing me. Stop teasing me.
Well, it's like Walking Dead. They're called walkers. I'm like, dude, they're zombies. Quit acting like you're in a world that zombies don't exist in. Like, don't act like I get it. Like, let's say they're zombies, but they only come out at night. Guess what? They're still fucking zombies. Like at the end of the day, they are still zombies. I don't care what it is. But
at least in this, like they're human-esque, and we'll get into this as it goes on. But like they show human traits. They develop intelligence, so they have relationships, and they're just like majorly devolved humans. Like I'm totally down for that. Like they're basically super strong, like cavemen. Like that's all it is. Right? Yeah, dude, exactly. Look, I got this big ass forehead and this big ass jaw, and I beat women and drag around a club. No, I'm just kidding. No. Oh my god!
No, they're basically they're cavemen with like a sunlight deficiency. That's all it is. But they're still kind of cool because like the manic rabidness of like their speed and their chaotic, just destructive nature is like, dude, that's scary as fuck, man.
Yeah.
Like they're way scarier than a zombie would be to me because I can just they're just walking through. You can just walk through them, but like these things are fucking fast and they're strong and they're kind of smart. That's the thing. They have like a hierarchy. They wear clothes and shit. It's like that's weird. Like in the book, it's very different. Like they're just vampires, and like In the book, he's not a scientist looking for a cure. He just kind of hauls them out of their houses and like burns them to death and shit. Like he just hunts them and stuff like that.
Okay.
Right. Very different.
Yeah. Now, if I was a better podcaster, I think if we were better podcasters, but we're not, we probably would have watched as research, the Omega Man, which I believe is another adaptation of a popular adaptation of this. I've seen scenes from it though, and they're like
that's
really
one with Charlton
weird.
Heston, right?
I'm not sure even who Charlton Heston is. For all I know, he's a
what?
Who is that guy? Who is he? What would I've seen him?
Dude, Charlton Heston's
let me Google him.
He's in Planet of the Apes. I think he's in like.
Oh yeah, that motherfucker. Yeah, I remember him. Yeah, from the old school Planet Apes. Yeah, it's that guy. I think they filmed it around the same time as the first Planet of the Apes. Yeah, that he was in. Yeah. 100%. My bad. I know the guy. Don't kill me.
I was like, you don't know who fucking Charlton Heston is? Like, holy shit. Yeah.
So I believe he's in that. And like in that though, the mutant vampire whatevers, they're like white skin and black robes. Like they're like from a cult or something.
Right. Yeah. It's very different.
Cheesy. Really cheesy. I actually prefer the changes they made for this for a modern film. Like maybe if you look at it with that nostalgic old school cheese, then maybe it's more acceptable. But yeah.
Well, and this is the major difference with the book is that he's, what happens at night is they all go and like stand around his house and there's just crosses and garlic and shit to keep them out, but they're normal. Like they wear clothes, they take showers and comb their hair. Like they're a society. And like his neighbor is a guy named Ben Cortman. And literally like he'll be going to sleep and he'll hear him tapping on the side of the house and be like, Robert, this is silly. Why don't you just come on out? And he's like, what the fuck, man? Like that's scary. That is way scarier. It's like a normal society of people who just want to kill you. And the thing is, and I'm gonna ruin the book here. So just brace yourself. The book's fucking 70 years old. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. The thing is with the book, the reason it's called I Am Legend. Okay. So he is the last human. There's none of this like cure bullshit in the book. None of that is real. Right. So what happens is a woman comes and he finds like a normal human, this other woman named Ruth. They they're together a couple of days and all of a sudden like he wakes up. I think she like knocks him out or something, but she tells him like, I took some of your blood because like I'm a vampire. I'm kind of like a halfling. I can survive in the daylight. She goes, but they're coming for you. And I just wanted to tell you that because I feel bad about all this blah, blah, blah. Well, long story short, they capture him. And what he finds out is like they found a vaccine that'll like kind of curb some of their vampirism. Basically, they're not like just animals. And what happens is he realizes that like I'm the last human on Earth. I've been going into these people's houses while they're asleep and dragging out, the young and the old and whatever and killing them and burying them in like mass graves and stuff. He's like, I am the boogeyman to them. And he's waiting to be executed. Like he's like looking out. He's like looking out a window like I'm going to be executed by these people. And he realizes like there's kids terrified of him and stuff. He's like, what must they think of me? Because like I am the boogeyman. I am legend. He's like, I am the legend that they are afraid of. And I was like, that's a fucking awesome ending, dude. Like, because that's the thing is like, they just want to go on with their lives and become a society and be left alone. And he's like dragging them out of their house. Like, they don't want to turn him. They want to kill him. Like, he's a monster. It's like, that's fucking awesome, dude. It's just, it was great for 1954 because it's like, take a look at somebody else's life. Like, take a look at the perspective of what's going on. And I just think that's such a better ending than what they do here is like, we are his legacy. We are legend. I was like, okay, this is dumb.
Well, in order to provide some structure to this podcast, which I can see is definitely going off the rails, both of our faults, not just, I'm not going to blame just one person because we're both fucking terrible at this today. But I think it's an interesting point because this movie has an alternative ending. And they both are, maybe the weakest point of the film, but we'll get into that. So let's put a pin in this. Let's remember this and take this on board as we explore the rest of the film. Ooh,
hell yeah!
What a cliffhanger segue. Okay, but this opening scene is fucking incredible of him driving through the city. It's just exactly what I was talking about. You see like the army trucks there. It's probably product placement of some sort for this car, I'm sure, because it does look like a really expensive ad. But it is also really exciting. Like it's cool to see this imagery. Like you're not going to see this in many other films. And it's a great way to set up like what to expect throughout this movie.
No, absolutely. I think the deserted nature of like just him flying through like all like on the sidewalk, he like mounts the curb and he's chasing these deer, and it's like this is badass. Him trying to drive and shoot an assault rifle with one arm is like, get the fuck out of here, dude.
It's kind of like another take on like how a lion hunts its prey, like with like modern technology and stuff. These deer, the CGI on these deer is a little dated, but it's not so bad that it takes you out of the experience. I think that is worth mentioning, though. But it's a cool scene, that's for sure.
No, 100%. I like the scene. I especially love when he finally tracks the deer down and he's about to drop it, and the fucking lion comes out from the lioness, like the female one comes out and grabs that thing. You're like, oh shit! Like, whoa! Like, it's like, did Jumanji happen to these people? Like, what the fuck is going on, man? But I like the respect that he has, where he's like, you can see the lions are kind of thin and like they don't look real healthy. And he's like, okay, you were hunting, I was hunting, let's coexist. And I'm like,
you've
cool.
got a family, 100%.
Right. There's no reason for him to kill them. There's like absolutely no reason.
Yeah, they're not even trying to hurt him. Hey, did you ever watch that Russell Crowe film Noah? It was like a take on Noah's Ark.
No, with Emma Watson and shit.
Yeah. So what's interesting with that movie is that all the animals in that are also CGI, because even though it's a religious Christianity type movie, they acknowledge evolution in a weird way, and so they're like, these animals are not evolved into what they are now. And at the very end, you see actual footage of it, and they look like this because they're like kind of realistic-ish, but they're not realistic enough for me to buy it. Which I know that comes to mind. And then we, right after that, we also get the poster for Batman v Superman.
Zoheb was like, don't let him talk about that for half an hour. I knew you would be the one to point it out. I mean, it's glaring though. It's like infamous in this movie.
It's like when people talk about this movie, it's the first thing that pops up when everyone's like,
yeah, it really does.
You'll get a bunch of angry commenters be like, how come you didn't mention Batman v Superman? Because it's a fucking Easter egg in the background. It's not really anything, and honestly, the appearance of this poster is probably 10 times more hype than the final product we got in the end. And that's I'll say about that.
Well, and there's like one, isn't there like Legally Blonde 3? There's like a couple of them that pop up. And like you see gas is like $6.63 a gallon. It's like, oh my God, that's fucking cool.
I never caught the Legally Blonde one until you just pointed it out. That's funny.
Well, what's interesting about all this is that, you know, he's hunting this lion and then the watch goes off. That's from the novel. He has to wind his watch to remind him like, hey, it's 30 minutes before sundown. I got to get home. It's actually a really terrifying scene in the book where he winds his watch every day because, you know, no digital watches in 1954. Yeah. So he's winding his watch every day and he looks down at his watch. He's like, okay, it's 2:45. I've got plenty of time. And he's burying these bodies and killing these vampires. Looks down at his watch like an hour later, or a few hours later, it still says it's 2:45. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, the sun's about to go down and I'm like an hour away from home. And dude, it's terrifying. In the book, he gets into a car, gets home, and as soon as he pulls into his neighborhood, they're all around his house already waiting. You're like, oh shit. Like, great book. I can't recommend the book enough. It's great, especially for being 70 years old. Like, there's a reason why this guy inspired so many people. It's a very good book.
Fuck yeah. And can I ask you, like, shortly after that, once he drives home, he starts like squirting some stuff like, along the stairs. Is that?
I don't know what that is.
I know. I'm trying to figure it out.
Holy water?
I was thinking it was like animal urine to keep away animals, but
it could be. Yeah.
What we find out later is like, so in this movie, what separates this from the book, I think, is they don't know where he lives. Like they figure that out towards the end. Like they follow him home, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then, so it can't be something to propel them away. I assume it's to keep away animals. Like, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of this sort of stuff in this movie where they I don't say they how do I say it? They don't tell you should be thinking about this. They let you. They choose not to give you information, so you have to figure it out yourself. So for the first whole act, you're kind of playing a puzzle of what the fuck's going on. And so whenever they reveal something, no matter how small it is, you hang on to it. And the suspense of trying to figure out the mystery is honestly one of the best elements of this film.
Well, what I just Googled, and this makes sense exactly like what you said. It's vinegar. And this is just from Google. It says he squirts it on the steps to mask the odor of him and Samson so the vamps don't find him by smelling him. I was like, okay, that totally makes sense. It definitely does. But like you said, we're kind of we show him kind of making my way downtown, and we're getting a definite sense of the world. We see how abandoned everything is. We're getting home. I love the relationship with Stan. That's fantastic. The dog pushing around its vegetables and stuff. And I was like, he's like, you better eat your vegetables. And I was like, that's so good, dude. And we see him, the punishment is giving the dog a bath. I just find that hilarious. But this is where we get a great flashback too, where we see kind of the world before this. So we see him and his wife. He's trying to work on this. They're asking, did it jump? Is it airborne now? They're asking a lot of questions. We're like, okay, we're getting a little feedback, like what's going on. And I love all this. And it ends with, that thing smashing up against the side of the car. I was like, oh shit. Like, I don't really like the jump scares in this. It's kind of gratuitous, but it's a 2007 like horror sci-fi kind of film. You're going to have those, I think it's inevitable, but I don't hate it. I don't know. I just kind of got a little bit tired of them. But I like the way they do flashbacks in this. I don't mind it. I know a lot of people hate flashbacks, but for a movie where we have one main character pretty much on screen the whole time, and then like two other people that don't show up till 3/4 the way through, you kind of need them. It's like, I feel I would be struggling as a screenwriter to figure out how to do this without flashbacks,
Well, it's also a good way to introduce drama without giving it away. Because, like, for example, that jump scare, as like overdone they can be in films and stuff, like it's also our first look at what a quote unquote monster could be. And I think the filmmakers they need to do that. They need to give us those Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs along the way for us to help start figuring it out. And that's what keeps us engaged, because our character, our protagonist, while he does have a objective, we as an audience don't know the objective. We don't know why he's going out and why he's doing all this stuff. So they need to give us something to keep us kind of interested. And this is where it's kind of a little bit non-traditional, I think, of storytelling, where we know so little about our protagonist. Like, by now, a Disney film would have introduced every character we need to know majorly for the most part, and their motivations and all that. We start getting trails and breadcrumbs of that through these flashbacks for the most part. And it's a smart way of keeping us interested. Because I think if they didn't have them here, at least for the first half of this film, we're basically just watching a guy living his life. and that's like,
right, yeah.
It's like if the Truman Show did not have people watching him, it would be very interesting.
There's definitely ways to do it. I mean, we wouldn't have to have flashbacks. You could see the empty girls' room and the colors, and it's like, oh shit, that's really, like, later on when he opens up that door and he sees the two empty cribs in that person's house, like, that's fucking sad. And like, that's all you need to know. But the flashbacks are, for this movie to be an hour 40, I think it's great. I don't have a problem with them. They fill in stuff really well. And it's nice to actually kind of see what the world was like before that, like what exactly happened and what caused the death of his wife and child. I do think they're necessary if you don't want this to run into like 2 hours. I definitely do. I think if you're trying to keep this to lean 90 to 100 minutes, I think flashbacks are totally fine. I don't have a problem with them at all.
Can I say what I think the greatest shot of the film is?
Shoot.
One of the best shots. I'm only half serious, but still. Shortly afterwards, we see Will Smith running a treadmill next to his dog, who's also running a treadmill.
Oh, sexy.
And that's just, oh man, Will Smith is a beefcake in this. He's a beautiful man,
shredded,
without
dude.
a doubt. And but seeing a dog on a treadmill, it's like, what? That is fucking incredible. This dog does so many cool tricks in this movie, and I'm not going to go through a lot of this, but if you want to have some fun for those playing at home, go to the IMDb trivia page, because it's clearly written by someone who was scared that the production would get accused for animal abuse, because a lot of it is just things about going, the dog was safe the whole time. This is how we did it. And it's constantly just trying to try to convince us the dog was okay. But apparently they had this dog for not too long. They only had like a certain amount of time to train it. But the way they achieved some of these things is pretty incredible. I don't know how they did the treadmill scene, but like stuff like whenever the dog's hurt and it's limping, they would put things like, they would like tie things to its foot, or put like, if they want him to lick someone's face, they would put like some food near their face or something like that. Or,
sure, yeah. Dude, you get in some fucking major trouble if you fuck with dogs in a movie now. Like,
yeah. Was it movie A Dog's Life. Did you hear about that?
Oh yeah, with Dennis Quaid. Yeah,
I think so. Basically, it was a dog that had to like swim, and like there's a footage taken of a dog who clearly didn't want to get in the water. It was scared because it was like they were doing fake waves.
It's like a Dog's Purpose or something.
Yeah. That's a Dog's Purpose, not a Dog's Life, I think. Yeah, and that movie kind of tanked as a result of just that 30-second behind the scene video.
Well, dude, that's like Stephen King wrote this book called The Dead Zone, and in The Dead Zone, this character kicks a dog to death. Like, it's like very violent. It's a villain, and they're supposed to be a villain. But in the book Cujo, the mom and the kid get trapped in their car from this big ass dog, and the kid dies from like dehydration in the book. Fuck you if you haven't read that book, by the way. It's like 40 years old. But he said he got triple the amount of letters from when that guy kicked that dog to death in the Dead Zone. He's like, so nobody gave a shit about the little boy dying of dehydration. Everybody gave shit to me about this fucking dog getting stomped to death.
That's how it is, man. Humans love dogs more than humans.
Right. He's like, I wrote that book in 1978, and I still get letters about Greg Stilson kicking a dog to death in the Dead Zone. But we see this great. We see him cooking the meal. He's obviously, he's keeping in shape. He's trying to keep sharp. We see him reading, we see him eating, we see him, keeping fit. And then he goes downstairs and just wow, what the fuck? I wasn't expecting this guy to put on a lab coat and like try and solve this thing. It's pretty crazy. But what I like is the whole, him testing multiple vaccines where he's like, I don't have time, so I'm going to do quantity and just test like 30 lab rats at a time. I think that's really badass. And we see a little bit of hope in one of them. He's like, whatever number it is, he's like, all right, you stay safe, number 18, I'll be back. And I love, but this actually, it also sets up like later on when you see the pictures of all the dead, like dark seekers on the wall, like that's exactly where it's like, dude, you're the boogeyman. You're killing these people. Yeah. Like, even though they're not really people anymore, like you're still killing them. They do have a society of their own. It's interesting. But one thing I love is when he opens up the door after he leaves, like, and I don't want to jump too far ahead. Like when he opens up that door upstairs and you see all the keys and stuff, there's a copy of Goodfellas in the door. I was like, oh, fucking BA, dude. I love Goodfellas.
I got one major gripe. Oh, it's more of a nitpick with this scene, and it applies to all the lab scenes. Like, I get it. You want us to think he's smart, but why the fuck is he putting on glasses? He's not reading anything. He doesn't need the glasses to see any better because he clearly can shoot people from like a million miles away. They just want us as an audience to think that he's smart. And it's like, we get it. He put on a lab coat. He's meant to be a scientist, but why the fuck is this motherfucker putting on glasses? He clearly does not need them.
I thought that was for the camera because he attaches it to like the side of the camera right there. I guess it's like a hands-free thing. But no, I think it is more of an imagery of like, she blinded me with science. It makes him look like this real, like he's got a lab coat on and glasses. This guy's into some science, He
completely, he does have that thing, but like, he's clearly like, he's almost like a completely different character once he puts in that lab coat and those glasses. And it's like, okay, he doesn't have to be badass anymore. Now he can be smart. Put on the smart
it's like,
costume.
Why isn't this dude just down here in like a U2 shirt and blue jeans? It's like, who gives a fuck? I would be down there fucking naked in like a pair of boxers. Like, why do I give a shit?
He doesn't need it. Like, I know. And like I said, it's a minor gripe, but fuck that.
No. But I wonder if it's a thing of his character being like, this is this world, that is that world. This is how I keep, he still wakes up at 5 a.m. He still goes, he has like an order to things. Like, it wouldn't surprise me, especially him being ex-military, wouldn't surprise me at all if he's like, when I'm down here, I wear this. Like, it would make sense to me is all I'm saying. So I definitely see the point though. If it's like, dude, I'd be down there with like my nuts hanging out and shit. I don't care. Who's going to fucking see me? I don't give a shit.
Wow.
But so we kind of see him after they leave. They go to this video store. Dude, this is so sad. Where he's like, I'm halfway through the G's now, man. He's like, who's that woman over there? Do you know her? And I'm like, I think I'm gonna say hello. I'm like, dude, this is like,
dude, you put that mannequin there. You dressed it up.
Right.
It's multiple levels of sad here.
Right. Well, especially for a guy who's like, he's obviously super smart. He's skilled. He's a hunter. We get that he's ex-military. He's in great shape. He eats well. And then it's like, but this is the one thing that he can't like fix. This is the one thing that he can't, like, he's got water, he's got electricity, he's got this badass dog, he's got guns, he's got cars, he's got a lab, but it's like, but there's nobody there to talk to. It's like, man, that is some Twilight Zone shit. You know, it's like having everything, but nobody to share it with. That's so fucking sad, dude.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I think on top of that, it's like, he's trying to create normalcy within his life. So it's socializing. So that's why, you know, even outside the front, he talks to those people. He's put them there so he's got someone to talk to. And on top of that too, it's like going to this video store. He needs something to do. Like, he probably returns the videos as well. He doesn't have to, but he probably does it for like a routine, a normal life, you know? It's probably what's stopping him from going crazy.
Yeah, totally, dude. I definitely agree.
I'm also realizing in this store, they have Christmas decorations up still.
It's Christmas because remember when she's in the car, she's like, we left my Christmas presents behind.
Oh,
and
shit.
Later on, when he's in the condo after he leaves the video store, there's a Christmas tree up. And it's like, dude, they really stuck to that shit though.
So is he going around putting up Christmas stuff or was it Christmas when the apocalypse happened?
I think it was Christmas when shit started going down, you know, because you can see on like some of the lampposts and stuff, they have like little Christmas trees or like wreaths and stuff. Like there's definitely some Christmas stuff scattered around, but it's also extremely creepy because it's all this Christmas stuff and it looks like it's like July, you know, it's like, what the fuck? Like it's very mind boggling when you see like a Christmas tree up in summertime. You're like, that's not right. Like that's fucking weird. But like you said, you know, he's at this video store. He's obviously trying to stave off any kind of insanity and have some kind of, Fred, the guy out front with the hoodie, which we'll definitely come back to later. Yeah. And we see him kind of, you know, he's kind of hunting around. He's doing some Fallout 4 scavenging shit. That I love this about this, him going through all the pill bottles and tearing down the curtains. When he sees the room with like the plastic over it, I was like, oh shit. Like you can definitely tell there's a body under that plastic tent. You're like, that's fucking crazy. But to open up the next room and to see the empty baby cribs is like, oh fuck, man. Like that's really like shit. Like, I think it was Ernest Hemingway. I could be wrong, but there was a famous author and he was sitting in a bar. And he asked this guy came up to the writer and he was like, I want you to write me the saddest short story you can on this bar napkin. And I think it was Ernest Hemingway. I could be wrong, but he takes out a pen and he writes on the napkin, for sale, baby shoes, never worn. And it's like, oh my God, that's so sad, dude. Like, and he just crushed this dude. Unbelievable. That's an amazing way to write that, you know, but that's exactly what I took. Show, don't tell. And the thing that it gets me is like, they're capable of doing that. They could have done the same thing with his family and they could have done all this shit. I think this is the movie showing you like, hey, we could do show, don't tell all day, but we've got 90 minutes to tell the story. And we're not trying to make this a 2.5 hour long movie about a guy talking to a city. Okay. So like, let's just streamline some of this shit. And I think it's a smart move. You get both. You get show and you get tell. And I think that's fantastic. I think they do a great job. That really was like a gut punch when I saw that. I was like, fucking goddamn it, man. Like it really like, Jesus, that's heartbreaking, man. That's really, ugh.
And I think to sort of, I'm not meaning to go back on something I said earlier, just to add to it. But like, I think earlier I said something like, this film kind of like, it lacks much of a plot. I think though, like that doesn't mean it's poorly written, because I think the biggest strength of this film, especially in the first half, is the way it keeps you engaged and invested and keeps you wanting to figure out stuff. Like when watching this movie the first time in a while, I was like, I know what's going to happen, but I was still heavily invested in just knowing like, how do we learn about this? What's going on? Just watching us try to like unravel it all scene by scene. It's really well done.
No, 100%. I think what's really great is him, where we see I think we're also getting, like you said, it doesn't lack plot. I think we're having to set up the repetition of his life. This is his day to day. He gets up, he hits the treadmill, he checks the lab, he eats some food, he and Sam go out on the hunt. And then, we have him every day. I'll be at this spot at noon when the sun is highest in the sky, and I'll be playing this loop trying to get people to come. And I think that's great. I think it also shows the desperation. If you are out there, if anyone is out there, I can provide food, I can provide shelter, I can provide security. It's like he's so desperate where he's like, you know how dangerous that is as well. like broadcast of this shit, and like you don't know who could show up. It could be fucking Wes from Road Warrior for all you know. Like it could be the most dangerous like rapist biker gang ever, but he doesn't care. He's like, I don't care who you are. Like just show up. I'll help you. I don't give a fuck. And it's like oh man, that's some desperation, dude. We see him hitting the golf balls off the big ass like helicarrier ship. That's really cool.
Such an iconic shot, man. It's incredible, and you can tell it's no CGI. I can tell at least it is all done there, and like the city behind him, and that dog, man, just sitting there. Apparently, the trainer was just off camera, like trying to entertain the dog, like telling him to stay. But oh my god, it's such a great like imagery. It's that's what I'm talking about. Like the character is the city and the environment here. It's fucking awesome, bro.
No, you're absolutely right. It's almost, you can almost feel it like breathing. You know, it just seems like it seems so absolute in everything. It's so great. And we can just kind of jump ahead to this scene where Sam follows the deer into the blacked out room. Like, oh fuck, man! Like you can feel it in your stomach when Sam runs into that. You can hear Robert like, Sam, no.
Oh my god,
dude,
bro! Like this scene is not how I remembered it. It is way longer but cooler and just nerve wracking because like you're like. Fuck, imagine that. Like, your only person you got to talk to is your dog. You don't know if he's alive. You don't know what's going on. You've never been here before. And it is dark as fuck. Like, there's a great use of darkness and not showing us what's going on. And we are right in the point of view of this character. We have no idea what the fuck to expect. And when you finally do get that reveal of all the, we call them night seekers, day seekers, zombie
dark
men,
seekers, yeah,
whatever the fuck you want to call them. When we see them all sort of like like video game characters crouched around together. What the fuck are they doing? Are they just waiting for the sun to go down? Like, whatever it is, it's freaky as fuck. And they're all bopping their heads like they're watching a rap battle or something.
Right. Well, the thing that scares the shit out of me is like there's a great YouTube channel called like Film Comics Explained, and they actually broke down this Crippen virus, and they were like, you know, it was a cure for cancer. You know, it ended up giving people rabies. What it does is it like nonstop speeds up their adrenaline. So like they're super fast, they're super strong, but when they're sitting there, they're just like. And that's how they breathe, and they just huddle and sleep standing up because they can't lay down because of their adrenaline. I was like, wow, that's really cool. I didn't really think about that. Like if your adrenaline ran like that, you could never lay down and go to sleep, you know, and get like a full night's rest. Like they're probably like on the verge of just like looking up at any minute and waking up. That's what's scary as fuck about that whole scene. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. And man, just the effects that would have on you, like it would just, no wonder they're so devolved, you know? Lack of sleep, lack of everything, and just, yeah, the way their hearts move. Like, they kind of look like they're on fast forward almost at all times. Like, just because they have the moves, they're moving so much. It's creepy as fuck.
The worst thing is he comes around the corner, he gets psyched out by the deer, and you're like, oh okay, whew, good. The money all over the ground, how worthless. Doesn't fucking matter. Fuck it. Who cares? Doesn't matter anymore. Like, that's insane. Whatever 28 Days Later does that when Cillian Murphy's walking through and he's just grabbing like fivers and tenors off the ground, and it's like, here's all this money. It's like, fucking wipe your ass with it, dude. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Like we said, he turns the corner and they're all huddled up. Dude, the worst is when he's like, Sam, I gotta go. And you think he's gonna leave that dog, and you're like, dude, please don't, man. And we see Sam huddled under the desk, and he calls Sam out. This whole wherever he is looks like a Resident Evil location. Just this weird abandoned, like, what the fuckery.
100%.
But him finding Sam, and then Sam being smart enough to be like, dude, look, look. And he turns around and sees that one. Oh, and all hell breaks loose. Like, and this is the first time we really get like a solid look at one of them, because it jumps on him he pops a couple of shots and then dude, oh my fuck. When he's running and you see the light and he's like, come on, Sam. And you can hear their feet on the ground. Like, fuck.
Yeah.
That's the theater of the mind of like, what you hear is so much worse than what you see. It's like, oh, that's so scary, dude. It's great. It's very, very, it holds up even today and it's very effective, even though this movie's almost 15 years old now. I know, man.
I think, him jumping out the window and we get to see the crypt, what do we call them again? Night Seekers, Day Seekers?
Something like that. Yeah, whatever the fuck they are.
You know what? The flibbity flus, I'm going to call them.
There you go.
When you see the flibbity flu fucking, like sort of burn up in front of him and stuff, like, it's a great way of like, you know, a lesser film would have been like, okay, Sam, here's the plan. We're going to jump out the window because the daylight will hit the creature, and because they're weak to they don't explain it. They just let us discover that. So like us as a viewer, we're seeing that, and it's like, shit, he's jumped out a window. Is he going to survive? Will that kill him? Oh wait, no, he must have planned that because it's not that high. Wait, why is the monster not getting him? He's dying, and we start figuring it out. Oh, it's because like they're weak against this. It's a great way of like educating us as an audience member without telling us. It's not spoon feeding it to us. And that's
right.
Pretty good ride. You know what, man? Like, I know I said this film was like sort of just okay, but like, its movie is really easy to praise because it does so many things right.
Where it could have done a lot of shit wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it does kind of get okay. Whatever. I Am Legend. It's a $5 bin movie for sure, but it's a good one. It's more, it's more of like a $7.50 bin kind of movie. Like I would be happy to own this, man. I probably am going to scoop it up just because it's great. You know, it's simple. It's an hour 40 long. You can watch this with your kids. It's not too scary and it's not too sad. And it's great. I think it's really, really cool because again, so what he escapes, we're setting up this trap that he's doing and he throws the vial of blood. Well, what's that? Okay. So they're attracted to blood now. That's something else we don't need to be told. We see it. Obviously he wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't effective. But the fact that he sets this thing up, so the thing is, like, he sets this trap up and he catches this, I guess, like the female, like the leader's woman, I guess. Like, I don't know. That's the thing of like in the alternate ending. That's what kind of fucks me up is I confuse the theatrical and the alternate ending because the alternate ending is like, it's like a peace treaty almost at the end. And I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Like I've never really understood it. It kind of makes more sense in that context, you know, that this is like the leader's spouse, you know, because he exposes himself to the daylight and stuff like that. But when you remove that element,
I don't think I ever picked this up back in the day. But like how he's sort of like how he runs out, like he's there because he wants that like that relationship aspect. Even though it's so obvious looking at it now, but I don't think I picked that up back in the day. Because when I was watching it here, it kind of caught me by surprise. I figured it was just some guy the monster just wanted to kill him, but like no, like he's trying to get his wife back, you know. And we'll talk more about that ending later on. We'll do a whole fucking thing on that.
Sure,
but it's good that they're setting it up here.
Right, I would be fine with him being like, "That's one of my people. Like you don't fuck with my people," you know. And like he didn't come out when the dude died, but he comes out when it's like, I understand what happened to him and he's dead, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. But why are you taking this person? And I think that when you see how many of them have died due to Robert's like experiments, it makes sense that one, the leader, is like, I'm responsible for these people and you're coming and killing them. Like when you've got the background of the book ending, it kind of makes a little bit more sense where he's like, I'm responsible for these people just because I'm the smartest one, you know. It's like I'm the leader. So I dig that. Either way, it doesn't have to be, you know, romantic, you know. I don't mind the fact that it's just like these are my people kind of thing, but either way,
I think the romance element that it humanizes the monsters more, and I think that's why they probably want that, because it humanizes them more, and so you can later on when you discover that it's easy to sympathize with the monster.
Sure, yeah.
But oh man, when he's experimenting on her and like her heart's, because of the heart rate, she's breathing so fast, but she's also still, that is creepy as shit.
Hell yeah, it is, dude. That's great.
Even with the PlayStation 2 graphics, it's still creepy as shit.
Well, it's terrifying because it's like sleep, rest. We think, deep breath, resting, but it's like it's such a weird juxtaposition to see the adrenaline still kicking with this thing that's supposed to be just like sleeping. It's like, oh, that's scary as fuck. But I love he injects her with that thing and she just like violently reacts and dies. But then he just turns around and I guess he has like an antidote ready or something. They don't really explain what it is. I guess he has like a life alert jumpstart kit and just like brings her right back. But this is smart. This is him being like, not everything's going to work. I'm going to have to try different stuff. And he basically, I love that he kind of loses his shit. And I love the lens flares in this too. It's very cool. I like the light kind of lens flare that's going on. It's very J.J. Abrams.
I was going to say it's very subtle, unlike J.J. Abrams, who'll just fucking shove it in your face. I think he's been learning his lesson lately, but we will not forgive him for Star Trek and those lens flares. And like he loses his shit, like, because he had his hopes, he brought his hopes up with the rat situation.
Right. Mm-hmm. Totally. And that's great because we need to see something out of him now. We need to see him get frustrated and get a little bit mad and show that he is starting to crack a little bit. Because he says, I remain the only human who is still immune. Dogs are immune to airborne, but they can be infected through contact. And I like the fact that he's kind of laying it down here. He's like day number, 1005 or something. I can't remember exactly what he says, but
we never find out why it's immune, do we?
No, I mean, it's just random luck. He even says later on, he's like 5 billion people died, 12 million people were left behind. They were basically, those 12 million were eaten by these other people that got turned into these things. So he kind of breaks it down mathematically. It's very much so like Stephen King's The Stand. There's just random, these handful of people are immune for whatever reason. Do I need to know? No, but it's still cool. I think it's interesting. Him breaking down the social de-evolution is complete. Typical human behavior is now entirely absent. Like, damn, dude, that's cryptic to leave that journal entry on. Because he even says, he's like, oh, a change in behavioral note. This guy exposed himself to sunlight. Like, he wanted me to know he was there. I think that shows an evolution of like these things are getting smarter, and like it's only a matter of time before, not that they're not going to catch up to you and have a society of shit running on monorails and electricity and shit, but it's not going to take them long to figure out how to lure you out, and they do it. They totally do it, and it's interesting because it's like monkey see, monkey do. Like they watched him do it, and that's how they learned it. He kind of fucked himself. I was like, damn, that's cool. I really like that.
And what's interesting to me is like the perspective of the protagonist. So, it's Robert Neville, which I just don't buy Will Smith as a Robert Neville, but that's a whole other thing.
Maybe a Bobby,
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it just doesn't look like a Robert to me. But I was going to say, yeah. So it's interesting. His perspective is kind of like, oh, their brains must be deteriorating, so that's why they're ignoring basic survival instincts. That's why they go out in the sun. Never occurs to him, I have a female one, that was a male one, they're in love. Like, he thinks they're actually deteriorated, but actually they've evolved in a way,
Right. It's almost like an arrogance.
Yeah. So, but it's a smart trick as well as from the writer's perspective, because it makes us, like, we trust the protagonist. We assume he's right because that's what we're being told. So if we think one way before, this may make us think another way now. And it's a good way of like sort of hiding that twist towards the end, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely agree. No, my dad was a Robert, and he's like the whitest guy in the world. This is not, Will Smith is not a Robert,
Whenever I hear Robert, I don't know why, but I think of the brother from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Hello, Raymond.
Yeah. Everybody loves Raymond.
So yeah, we see him, he kind of concludes the journal entry. We get another flashback. Dude, this scene gets my palms sweaty, man. Like the whole, way too many people. There's chain link fences up. There's obviously panic. they're testing people, like, trying to see if they'll let them out of this quarantine or not. And they beep him, fine. Beep daughter, fine. They beep her and they're like, nope, she's bad. Send her off. Oh my God, dude. The guns get drawn. I am Lieutenant Colonel Robert Neville and I'm ordering you to scan her again. It's like, oh, he pulls fucking rank real quick. And you're like, oh man, this is awesome. I love this scene.
You really buy the panic here. Like,
he sells the shit out of that panic, dude. The whole crowd, the woman crying blood and being like, my baby's not,
baby.
Whew, that's fucking, and it's fucked up because it's like, I don't worry because you're both going to be dead soon. Like, it's fucked up to think that, but it's like, that's the only solace is like, and even the little girl, Marley, being like, why couldn't we take that little girl, daddy? Like, fucking God damn it, dude. Like, to have to explain that to the child. And it sucks. She'll be dead in fucking 10 minutes. Yeah. It doesn't even matter. Like, it shows that even in the face of death, this little girl doesn't know she's going to die. Like, she just doesn't, nobody knows that they're going to die in this. But even as all of the shit's going on, the daughter's like, what about that little girl? Like, her prerogatives and shit. It's so crazy to think of, like, the mindset of a child in the middle of, like, a global disaster like this. Like, having to explain that. Like, have you ever seen The Road or read The Road? Viggo Mortensen. It's a Cormac McCarthy book. It's post-apocalyptic. Have you ever heard of it at all?
Man,
or seen it or read it?
You keep coming up with these references that I'm just not. Sorry, bro. No.
Well, it's a really good book. My girlfriend's an English teacher. I read a lot. I'm son of a librarian. We read a lot of shit.
Yeah. Okay.
But The Road is like a post-apocalyptic book, and in the movie, it's Viggo Mortensen and the kid from Let Me In. I can't remember his name. But at some point, like, he finds a Coca-Cola and he cracks the Coca-Cola open and gives it to the kid. He's like, I got you a treat. And the kid like drinks it and he like gets scared of the carbonation because he's never had a Coke before. You're like, dude, you have to explain this shit to a kid. Like, that's mind blowing, man. But this is a great scene. We see the little puppy version of Sam. Oh my God. Fucking Papa. Eat my heart out, dude. Love it. I watched this movie. My dog had a bit of a freak out today. We don't know what happened. We came into the apartment and he like bolted out of our apartment. He was just like scared of something. We don't know what. So I'm watching this with my dog and I'm like, literally, he puts his arms around me and like puts his head on my chest and like sleeps like that sometimes. Like me and my dog are like uncomfortably tight. Like it's most people would be like, dude, that's weird. But I'm watching this with my dog the whole time and he would eventually he's a retriever. So retrievers are very like, they check different rooms and make sure everything's okay. So he's sleeping on me, but he's old and he's lazy. So he gets up and just kind of looks around the room and lays his head back down. And I'm like, you're such a good boy. God damn it. You're such a good boy. This is a movie to like watch your dog and hug your dog too. Like you've got to, there's no way.
Yes.
So we see him get, Sam as a puppy. Marley, the daughter, hands it back. And that's pretty much, I like seeing the origin of where he, how he kept Sam. That's really great. And we think everything's okay. We think they just kind of take off in the airplane and then boom, there he is. He wakes up again, got the boots and the clothes ready to go. He's kind of, he's watching the old, like the recorded news stuff, which that's going to be one of the only things that keeps you sane. Like hearing another human's voice, watching real life, like replays of real life,
I once spent like close to 6 months living alone. Maybe it was like 4 or 5 months living alone at one point. And I used to just put the TV on with the news on, which I don't normally watch on the TV, but just so it felt like someone else was in the house. Because I go crazy when I'm around people. Like I would not survive the way this guy survives, I'd be dead long gone from just the isolation, Fuck.
Right. If I would have to have I would have to be building something, like I would have to have something that
I'd
8
build
hours
a house
a day.
out of Legos that I've stolen from different toy stores.
Right. Yeah. I would have to have I would build like sandcastles or something, I'd have to do something. But it's Robert's birthday today. He's like, you going to sing to me? This is great. All this stuff with the dog. He goes and he hangs out waiting for somebody to show up. We're still waiting for someone to pop up, at his beacon. And driving around, this is where he sees old Fred. Oh shit.
Oh my God.
This is some crazy stuff, but here's what I want to do. I want to pause right here because shit is about to break bad. Why don't we go ahead and take a little break right here before this shit drops? We can refill our drinks. We'll empty our bladders. What do you say? You cool with that?
Let's do it.
Hell yeah, guys, don't go anywhere. We will be right back with the second half of our coverage of I Am Legend.
Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever the hell you are. Thanks so much for listening to this episode, guys. Just while we're taking a quick break here, I am going to plug some shit. No, it's not advertising, it's nothing paid. It's basically just kind of self-masturbatory stuff. Basically, follow us. Follow us on our socials. We have 2 pages on Facebook called Midnight Double Feature, obviously, and then we have our main group, which is called The After Party, which is fantastic. Our community loves to engage there, and that's our main way to communicate with our audience. Please follow The After Party. That's a fantastic page. And please follow us on Instagram, which is at Midnight Double Feature, and Twitter, which is at MDF Pod. You can listen to us anywhere on iTunes, anywhere on Spotify, on YouTube, wherever. And if there's no way that you can listen to us on your device, please let us know by getting in touch with us. You can do that by sending us an email, which is midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. Now, last but certainly not least, please remember to rate and review us on iTunes. We would love to get your guys' feedback, whether it's positive or negative. Just please remember to, put a star and let us know in your little speech bubble thingy what you think of us and where we can improve. That would be fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for listening to my little rant here, and back to the show, I guess. See you later.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back. Coming at you with our second half of the coverage of I Am Legend. Freshly squeezed, as we like to say around here. Our bladders are empty, our drinks are full, we're cocked-locked and ready to rock. So let's jump right back into this with the... Woo! What are you doing here, Fred? What are you doing here? This is a pretty infamous scene for this movie, the whole thing with Fred.
What was Fred doing there? Like, at the end of the day, what are any of us doing here? Really?
Well, what cracks me up is he gets out and he's got the rifle and he's talking to Fred and he just unloads. I would love if as soon as he unloaded into Fred, he was like, "Oh fuck!" Like Fred started talking and he's like, "Dude, you fucking shot me."
But what's cool about the scene is like you don't know, is he losing his mind? Because I kind of set that up earlier. Is he losing his mind or something else? Because they've given you no indication this could be a trap. Like it is bizarre, but like we've spent like 46 minutes thinking there's no one else here. So you don't know what the fuck is going on.
Right, yeah. It could be so many different angles. I think once you see Fred, you're like, okay, something's fucking going on here. It's either the seeker things or it's somebody fucking with him. But I think once he steps up and he falls into the trap and it wraps him up, you're like, oh fuck, they snagged him, they got him. Because
it could be like other humans. Like, what if his message got out and it's like another camp of people like trying to like rob him or something? Like, who knows? Like, honestly.
Well, see, I thought because it's the exact same trap that he set for the Seekers. So it's like, dude, monkey see, monkey do. They saw it. They set the same trap, and it's kind of like, okay, well, we'll do what you did to us and flip this, pull the whole Uno reverse card and fuck them up.
Well, we do soon realize that is the case. And,
right.
And what is such fucking cool imagery is, I don't mean to jump ahead too far ahead here, but like the light and what's stopping the dogs from coming to get him. Like, but first, before that, we get the whole like what he's like. He got stabbed by accident. He's crawling away, and it's pretty brutal. Even though, like in a PG-13 sense, it is still pretty brutal. And like the tension starts to build where they're coming to get him. You realize what's going on, and it's like fuck, is he going to make it in time? They're really good at building suspense here, I think. And poor Sam, just trying to protect him. This is a really good scene, I think.
Well, dude, I think the thing that really taps it all off is when he goes up and he whacks his head on it makes you like, but then the blood in the water, it's like, oh shit. Like we've seen fucking hell, man. Like not that we really needed the blood in the water to attract anything because they're already there waiting, but it adds that anticipation. Like what you said, he's trying to crawl away. He keeps calling Sam. That's like this thin red line that's like keeping them away, that when finally it disappears, Sam takes the first one, but then it's just, it's just a total it's total chaos after that. Him trying to get Sam back in the car and him trying to shoot these things and fend them off. And it's just really interesting seeing these almost like mole rat hellhound like kind of dogs. It's fucking nuts. But Sam takes. Oh, go ahead.
And Wednesday gets on like these are like fucking good stakes here because you got one like Smith is pretty much weaponless with this monster on top of him. It's like he's risked his life, but he's also watching his only like friend in life getting fucked up right next to him. And he's screaming out to him, and like there's only so much he can do. And it's you just feel this sense of hopelessness. But when Sam comes to his rescue, that feels triumphant, you know.
Right. Well, Sam, he shoots one, and Sam pretty much takes down the other two and lets him shoot the third one. You're like, fuck, man, this dog is dead. And the thing that kills
a good boy, though. What a good boy.
Oh, hell yeah.
He deserves all the traits.
Right. Well, and what's crazy is the switch when he's like Samantha. I was like, oh, shit, it's a female dog. That's cool.
I don't know why, but that always stood out to me as the weirdest plot twist of all time.
It is a little like, who cares, you know?
But like, it's like you've called him Sam the whole film, or her the whole film, and now you've got Samantha. It's like, I don't know, just it's new information brought out at a weird time. It's always caught me off guard. Like, I don't know why. It's not really that big of a. It's not really a big deal or a major detail at all. But like, it's just kind of funny where like it takes me a bit out of the moment where I'm like, oh, I thought it was a boy. It's a girl.
Right, yeah.
Okay, back in the movie.
Kind of right, yeah, exactly. Like the only thing I can draw a comparison is like he took a female that you know, basically his counterpart. Now they've taken his companion. I was like, oh shit, it's kind of like eye for eye. But yeah, they get back to the lab. He tries to give her the most recent vaccine. It definitely doesn't work. The clump of hair. Oh fuck, this is so sad. Like, why do you have to smother the dog? Like, don't you have a gun? Do you have anything around? Like, do you have anything you can just pump full? Yeah, like an overdose of this dog. Like, they really play that thing for all it's worth. When the fur comes out, you can see it in her eyes. She starts snarling at him, and like like what you said, when the sadness comes in his face when he's like just smothering Sam, it's like, dude, it's palpable as fuck. Like that is so genuine, man.
It's moments like this is what I mean by like it's a great showcase of Will Smith's acting. Like the what are you doing here, Fred scene is really intense, but then it's back to back with this scene where it is so fucking emotional when he's like, you know, he has to kill his own dog. Like that is crazy, and like they just show you enough without it being too much. And even like they show, but what's also cool is that they show you the warning signs. Like he looks at the eye, looks at the teeth. So you also learn a bit, but like, I really believe like Will Smith's performances here, like, and like he had to kill his dog, man. Like, that gets me so hard. That is,
right. I've been in a room when one of my dogs has been euthanized, but I imagine having to, with your bare hands, kill, like, oh, fuck, dude. That just takes a whole other level of like, holy shit, dude.
He was such a good boy, good girl.
Well, what I love after
misgender the dog. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to assume this dog's gender. I don't want the PC police after me. I'm really sorry, guys.
The dog self-identifies as like a basset hound.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The thing that really gets me is when he leaves, he buries Sam, he goes to the video store and he's like, please say hello to me. And it's like, this is the final straw. Like, I have to have some kind of interaction here. And it doesn't happen, and he fuck snaps, dude. He just fuck snaps Death Wish. Like, holy shit.
This movie.
I thought you were gone. I was like, dude, is he
No,
like,
I'm just like, I am gone, but like in the sense like I'm emotionally gone. I'm dead on the inside.
yeah, well, dude, and like exactly, he just has a total death wish, and he goes into the armored car with the lights, and you're like, fuck yeah. So we kind of need this scene at this point. Like we've had the action scene where he kind of went in there and shot some of them up, but it wasn't really like him versus them in a real kind of fight. And now it is like, oh fuck, like now it's him kind of, he's trying to kind of kill himself, and the only reason he gets saved, because they get smart. They climb on the lights and bring the lights down on top of his car, and then they like start ramming it, like trying to flip it over. And the only reason he gets saved is because of is it Anna? I know it's Ethan. Ethan is the boy's name.
I'm have to look this up.
I believe it's Anna. Alice Braga and Ethan, played by Charlie Tahan. Yeah, I don't know. But I've seen Alice Braga. She's in New Mutants. If that ever fucking comes out, she's in a couple of things.
I can't wait to see that movie just to see like what does it look like to see a movie that's been delayed 5 times.
Dude, for real, like for fucking real. When we first started the podcast, when I did an upcoming attractions like 2 years ago, and was like,
shit.
so New Mutants has been delayed.
Did an upcoming attractions.
Oh, dude, I used to do like, oh yeah, I do like 20, 30-minute episodes, back when we were, back when those episodes weren't powered by a bunch of windbags.
1-person episodes, like without anybody else, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's going back to like episode 2 or some shit, I'm assuming. Fuck.
Yeah, that's like we did when Bryan Singer got fired from Bohemian Rhapsody. Like we did shit like that. Oh my God, so old.
Aren't you grateful that I'm here to do all that shit for you now?
Right, yeah. This is a great scene with Anna saving him and him being like, this is where I live. Don't go back there until dawn. Like, just keep circling around. And at first, I thought she just blatantly ignored that. We find out later on, she was like, well, it was pretty much dawn. And he's like, doesn't matter if they found us. It's like, oh, fucking shit, man. And then we finally see what happened to his wife. I think his wife's name's Zoe. I think it's Zoe and, oh, fuck. I can't remember his daughter. It's Willow. It's Willow Smith.
Let's call her Willow.
But we finally see what happened to them.
She could whip her hair back and forth. That's how old this movie is.
I honestly was not expecting the way that the helicopter crash went down. I thought it was going to be I thought there was going to be an outbreak on the bridge and they all started just jumping on the helicopter. I was like, oh shit, like that World War Z kind of shit. Yeah. But man, it's fucking like we don't even need to see the helicopter crash. We know it. As soon as we see it start veering over, we're like, well, that's how that ended. Like, fucking shit, man.
So they were taking people off the island. Is that because like the island's been quarantined, or they were just trying to get people away from the virus?
I think they're about to shut down like immediate. Nobody infected or not infected is getting off this island. So it's like they're scanning people. Like, okay, you can go, and obviously he gets fast passed because he's military.
It's just so crazy to me that how accurate. That this is exactly like how the coronavirus lockdown happened, like to a T. It was exactly the same. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
Well, dude, no, you're fine. And the crazy thing is though, if he doesn't push so hard, like scan her again, I demand you scan her again. She would be alive. Like she might have gotten infected, like she might have died that way, but she wouldn't have died in a helicopter crash. And you're like, oh fuck,
but you can't blame yourself for these things, man. There's no way you could know that shit would happen.
Exactly. Hindsight's 20/20,
Yeah, but like that character would not forgive himself for a while, I'm sure. On the bright side, though, he wakes up to Shrek, and for some reason, this is one of the most memorable scenes for me. I don't know why, but when I think of I Am Legend, I'm like, oh, it's the movie where Will Smith quotes Shrek.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, what's interesting, too, is all the colors that we've seen him wear so far through the movie. He's always wearing black. He's always wearing gray and stuff. And when he wakes up, he's still wearing the gray. They're kind of eating eggs. We're introduced to Anna and Ethan. She sewed his leg up. The eggs are powdered, but I did find bacon, which is about the most fantastic thing in history. And some antibiotics in the bathroom. Basically telling him to start some antibiotics or he's going to be sick. Like the fact that he just sits down and he's like, I need a minute. I'm going to go upstairs. He's like, I can't fucking deal with this shit right now. Like they've been together, they're fine, but he's like, I can't imagine being told everybody's dead and 2 people show up on your doorstep. You're like, this shatters everything I knew about this world.
Yeah. And it really fucks with him, but it's cool how they do it. Like he's in disbelief. He can't believe it. Like, when she starts like saying there are other people alive, he's in such denial. Like he's just like, shut up. Like he just keeps telling her, like he thinks she's stupid. Like you believe this dream that people are alive over there and stuff, but what does he know? He's been stuck in the same part she's been around. But for him, like what's kept him alive is this belief of what's been going on, and now he's been telling that may not be true, like that some of it, like I'm not going to say a lie, but a lot of it may not be accurate. Like that would break you as a person, because everything you've identified yourself for 3 years, like it just fallen apart. That would be so fucking heavy to deal with.
Well, yeah, well, especially her source of all this is like, I think God told me. It's like, are you fucking crazy? Like, so you're going to drive all the way to Vermont because God told you that there's a survivors colony. And for some odd reason, she knows that they're all okay because the virus couldn't survive the cold. And I'm like, what? I need a little bit more tangible information.
You've opened up the can. Let's dig into it. Okay. How do you feel about the religious aspects of this film?
I don't really like it. I think it's totally unnecessary. Like the whole, what is the deeper, if the deeper meaning was like, hey, have a little faith in stuff that's unknown, maybe try and extrapolate upon that. But I don't really feel like that's the message of the movie, Yeah,
like, so this movie's use of religious stuff through this character, it's a little, I'm confused about its messaging. Like, I get it. It's the motivation of this character, and that's fair enough. You're allowed to do that. That's totally fine. But like, it ties a lot into the ending, and I don't understand what us as an audience are meant to go away thinking. Like, I don't know what it wants. And if it's trying to deliver a Christian message, I feel like they've started to, and they've kind of chickened out a bit, which is understandable. You don't want to lose the whole audience that way. But like, I think you either got to like dive into it, or it seems it's a little like they've half-assed it. Like they were too scared to commit to it. And like, it doesn't make a lot of sense because at the end of the day, like, so the ending for this film is, he chose to sacrifice himself so she can get the cure to some people, right? Well, his blood to some people. Fair enough. That makes sense. And he has like, what's he say at the end? He says something like, you got to have faith and believe. Some typical revolutionary.
Yeah, like light message. Up the darkness.
Something like that. And it's all inspired by a butterfly, which, like, in the cracks,
what?
which like, I feel like there must be a deleted scene which I don't realize. I realized earlier when he's in, like, the cornfields, whatever it is with the dog, they see a butterfly, but I don't know.
Well, and his daughter keeps doing the, look, Daddy, it's a butterfly. I'm like, but what is it the metamorphosis within himself, or is it the metamorphosis of the like monsters?
It's meant to be a cross, but they're too scared to do the cross, so they just went to a butterfly. But I feel like it's meant to mean something, but we're not told what it's meant to represent. Like, we can guess the meanings. It's some generic, you got to have faith, believe, metamorphosize, anyone can be a thing, whatever. But then you look at like the alternate ending for this film, right, which was filmed, but due to negative reactions from test audiences, they changed it, right? But they didn't change it much. Like, so the original ending was that he realizes that the leader, like, he's got his wife, and he realizes there is humanity in them after all. So he surrenders, gives her the body, and they sort of come to a truce, and he goes off to help them, which is kind of a good message about, maybe they're not monsters, misunderstanding people. It sort of ties a little bit into what you described earlier as the book's original ending. Not exactly, but like it sort of does. And it humanizes the monsters and stuff like that. But I'm guessing the audience members were like, well, there's no action. So maybe the filmmaker's like, fuck it, we'll just give him an explosion. But it's not like they're giving us an action scene. They're giving us an extra explosion. And that's my biggest problem with this film is like both endings kind of suck. They both feel very anticlimactic, and they both feel like they have a half-assed message, which I think stems from the Christianity stuff. I don't think it's completely that's fault. But I think like that's because like they were started to tell us something, but they're not willing. I think maybe because the rest of the film, they don't want to spoon feed us. They didn't want to do the same here, but it's like, motherfucker, for us to get a conclusion, we need closure. So you got to like fucking tell us what your character learned, or we're not going to fucking get it, And
and it's just none of it really. The whole butterfly thing is like, well, who is that about? Is it about Neville? Is it about the monsters? Is it about both? Like, and the whole thing with Anna, when she shows up, she's like, she has a lot of information just based off of God told me this. Book of Eli, I buy that. I buy that whole thing. This is like, here's this lady who doesn't seem overly religious. Like, she said God told her this stuff. She was on a ship and 5 people were immune and all of them died and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, my thing is, give me something where she's like, I was driving through and I picked up a strong radio signal for a survivors colony. Oh, I never picked that. Have something where he argues with her, where she at least had some outside information from another human being that describes that. Because my whole thing is like, dude, if I'm him, no fucking way am I going to go to Vermont with this lady and this kid I just met who's saying she's hearing messages from God. Like, well, I've been here for 3 years. Like,
in Robert Neville's defense, he doesn't seem super on board with that, He thinks he's got to stay here. Thinks he's got to come up with a cure. He's sort of more on that side of things. But with her, like, I think it's not fully fair to say this lady's crazy for believing that or whatever. Like, some people, like, if you have a strong feeling, most people want to go with their gut instinct. So it might be the equivalent to that. So I think that's kind of fair. But it would have been nice to have at least an argument or a conversation between them two, or at least somehow tie in that theme of her Christianity beliefs into the end. Like maybe the reason he sacrifices himself is he understands her perspective and he thinks, oh, this is the right thing to do, which I think maybe is something like what the filmmakers are going for. But again, like they're very vague about it. And yeah, and it kind of feels like with what we do get, it's a half-assed way to quote unquote become a legend. Like we get it. You're a martyr, you're sacrificing yourself. But also in that situation, I feel like he could have survived. He could have just left. He didn't need.
Well, a grenade does not work that way. Like grenades don't blow up an entire room. Like you're lucky if they killed 2 people. Like there's no fucking. I'd love if he just jumped out and it killed him and like kind of hurt the monster, and he's like, oh well, fuck, that was for nothing.
Or it just blows off his hand and he's still alive.
Right? Yeah, he's like, oh fuck. But what I love is him freaking out. He goes upstairs and kind of chills out. And when he comes back downstairs, when the kid's watching Shrek, he's got white on now. So it's like redemptive. Like now we're getting a little bit, now you're moving away from that spectrum.
And something I never realized with the scene until my watching for this, which I actually love. I always was like, Will Smith quotes Shrek. And that's cool because Shrek was a very quotable movie at the time. But in this is like, he realizes Will Smith's character is just like the donkey character. Like he is like sort of realizing... Like basically what he's what he's saying is expressing the words his character can't say. And it's a little bit comedic, it's a little bit just weird, but like he's saying like, hey, like what like the quotes he's saying applies to him. And now I don't know what it is. Like I don't know if it's smart or if it's dumb, but it is kind of cool to be like, hey, this is my way of connecting with you through this film.
Right. Well, I think that's definitely it. I think is the whole Shrek thing of like, well, I'm just gonna, I'm a human too. I laugh at funny stuff. I'm sorry I freaked you out, like blah blah blah. And one thing I really like is the fact that they don't fuck. I really like that. Like it would be so easy for them to be like, I haven't had dick in like 2 years. Get over here, Like I like the fact that they don't take that kind of route when it would be so simple to do that and believable, honestly. But I think that the whole thing just is kind of wishy-washy. I think that I prefer actually the alternate ending because that one's a little bit more like live to fight another day, as in like you need to let go of what's happening here because it's done. Because he repeats himself so many times in this movie where he's like, this is ground zero. I'm not leaving. I can still fix this. And it's like, dude, well, once you've got the antidote, you fixed it, but you don't have to stay here in misery. Just because the people around you are dead doesn't mean you have to hang out with their ghosts. Like you don't have to stay in this like dead zone. You don't have to live here. Because I feel like that's the thing of he's like, I am responsible for this. I am responsible for fixing this. And even when he opens up the fridge earlier on, we see a cover of him on Time magazine and it's like Robert Neville, can he fix this? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, I think if they would have edged that out a little bit more, especially between scenes with him and her, where she's like, I know who you are. She says you're the Robert Neville. I think if they had edged that out a little bit more and been like, listen, you can't be responsible for 5.4 billion people. Like that's not your responsibility. Like you need to learn to let go of what happened to your family. Right. And also at the same time, realize that you can move forward by helping the people that are still alive, not wallowing around in death, Yeah.
And so for the listeners who are listening, all like 6 million of you, because our podcast is clearly that popular. the first half of this podcast was us praising it. I guess the second half is us going to be shitting on it because what you just described is so much a better character arc for this character than what we do get. Like he needs to learn something, and throughout this movie, he's basically been like Superman Jesus. Like, oh, he's amazing at shooting, he's amazing at driving, he's amazing at science. What is he bad at? Oh, he's bad at making conversation with mannequins. So is everybody else because mannequins don't talk back. So this is the first time we see him sort of shaken up. That's kind of what makes him good. But like, it'd be great if he learnt like through these characters that he doesn't have to feel that responsibility, you know? It would make perfect sense rather than just getting the half-assed sort of ending we did get. And I think that it's kind of, again, don't want to backstep too much on what I said earlier, but that's why I said the first half of this film was really great, the way that they show don't tell, the way that they don't give us too much information. Because in the second half, I feel like they don't give us enough information, you know? And
again, the whole... Put yourself in his shoes. I've been here for 3 years. I haven't seen a single human being. I've barely survived like these last 3 years without worrying if something's going to track me down and kill me. And you want me to believe that God led you to me and that he will lead me and you to the people in Vermont. And like, she just has a lot of specific detail for like, I grew up in a religious household. God is not that detailed when he's delivering this shit, like Old Testament stuff, you know, like it's very like, go here and you'll figure out why later on. But like the whole thing is she's like, oh, the virus keeps, you know, it was too cold for the virus and stuff. Like, you don't know that though. Like, this is a scientist. This is a guy who has spent months and years like killing multiple of these dark seekers to try and find a cure. And you just want to come up to him and say it's God. It's like, dude, that would be a real big, I mean, you got to think, I get that he hasn't seen anybody in 3 years, but to watch all the death that he has watched and watch his family die, and then this woman come up and be like, oh, it's God. It's one thing to disagree with that. He takes it a step further saying there's no God. You know, that's a little bit much. You know, I'm not going to agree or disagree with that. You know, that's his prerogative. That's the negative kind of space that he's in. But it's understandable. It's like you're a scientist working on a cure, and this lady comes up and says that God will take care of all the stuff, and God told me to come here, and God told me to do that. And it's like, where was God this whole time? What happened, you know? But he kind of says it. He's like, God didn't do this. We did. I'm like, yeah. I kind of like that. I like the fact that maybe those do kind of coincide where she's like, God told me to do this. Maybe he's trying to course correct stuff. But I just don't like movies where it's like, because God. I'm like, I just don't like it. It's like Deus Ex Machina as fuck. I just don't like that shit. Like,
well I don't take it that way, man, because I think it like, that's just what drives the character. It's not what drives the plot. You know, I think for her, like,
oh no, it definitely drives the plot.
Like, what's good about the film is like the film never actually says this is because of God. God didn't do this. God didn't do that. You know, it's just one character who's moved by that. So maybe she is crazy for doing this and she accidentally stumbled upon him. Maybe that is that. Or maybe it's God's plan. Like, I think that's okay to have a maybe this or maybe that scenario, but there's no scene where the clouds part and a man with a big white beard comes down, picks up the lead like zombie and throws him to hell, you know, and saves the day.
No, but there's literal parts where she's like, God told me. She literally says, God told me. Yeah. And it's like, what? And like, I can understand it because the mysterious way
she believes that doesn't mean there was an actual omniscient presence that said that, you know?
No, but that's my thing is like, it's one thing if she says, I had a feeling that told me to turn on the radio. If she had just said, I'm following my feelings, and that could be, is that a coincidence that every time I followed my gut, it's led me to you? Like, that's cool. I like that. Keep it mysterious, but don't come out and deliberately say, God told me to come here and do this, because it's like, it's just, to me, it's just Deus Ex Machina as fuck. It's like, oh, well, you know, because God did it. You know, it's like, oh my God, that's kind of lame. Like, I don't know, because ultimately it's like if God told you to...
There are people like that in real life, though. You realize that, right? Like, who do that. Like, I know this girl, lovely girl, very religious. I was like, how'd you meet your boyfriend? She goes, I believe God introduced me to him. And I'm like, that's a little crazy. She's like, I know, you might think that, but honestly think that God told me that I had to go to this certain place to meet the certain person. I met him. And I'm like, okay, you're welcome to believe that. That's totally fine. And, like, respect to them and their beliefs, you know? So I do think like a character come out and saying this isn't exactly out of nowhere, but you know, it's not like it's not like just because this character believes that doesn't mean that's what actually happened. I think.
Sure, I think they could be a lot more.
I'm not taking it as for lack of a better phrase, I'm not taking it as like the word of God. I'm not taking it, I'm not taking it's not the Bible. I'm not like going, oh, she said this and this is what happened. I'm saying, oh, you're saying this because it's your interpretation of it, but maybe she just had a gut feeling. She went there and happened to bump into him, and she chooses to believe it's because of God, but maybe it's not because of God. So I don't think it's exactly. I think it's Deus Ex Machina when it actually affects the plot. When like I don't know when something happened, like if someone came out of nowhere and saved the day, it's because God told me as well. Like then maybe I'm like, oh, okay. But these two at the end of the day just met by accident. I do think it's Deus Ex Machina how she saves him. What just happened to be there when it happened. Get the fuck out. That's some bullshit.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying is like it's one thing if she's like, listen, I trusted my instincts and my instincts have led me this far. And I think that there is a higher power at work, but she just automatically goes, I know how it sounds, but God told me. I'm like, I think if you're a little bit more ambiguous about it, I'm fine with that. But my thing is like, here's my thing. If God is involved in this, then you're fine. Nothing will happen to you. Like it takes away all the stakes because God is on your side.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
It's like that eliminates any of like the conflict at all. Cause I know you're going to be fine. It's like, that's kind of, I just don't really, and that's my thing is like, that's why I like a little bit of what happens with Robert Neville here, because it's like, he loses the faith in humanity and kind of finds it with these two people. And I do enjoy that. That's a little bit of a character arc. At least he's found something worth dying for. He's like, this is worth it to sacrifice myself, which is, a Christ analogy like a motherfucker, So he's like, if I sacrifice myself to allow these people to live and I provide them with a means to save the world, that's like a Christ analogy from hell, literally. It's like, it's so Christ-like to be like, here is the key to everything you need, and I'll sacrifice myself. Save yourself, I'll hold them back, like kind of thing. I dig that. I think that's cool. But it's really heavy-handed. He's wearing like all white when it comes out, and he sacrifices himself, and it's like, dude, come on, man.
That's true. I wonder if this movie has any connection to, like, I don't know, if it got funded by a church or if
it wouldn't surprise me, dude.
If the director had a big tie into something like Hillsong or some evangelist church or something. It would be really interesting to find out. But with that being said, we don't get this vibe from something like Book of Eli, which is another like film around the same time with that also works in some religious aspect. But we don't get that from that because it doesn't really affect the plot. It's more like a MacGuffin, right?
Right. Well, no, it definitely affects the plot because you find out at the end of Book of Eli that he's blind as fuck. And it's like, dude, so he was just being led by God the whole time, even though he's blind.
True, yeah.
So my thing is like, Book of Eli is a perfect thing where it's like, that's ambiguous the whole time. Who knows if God's alive? It doesn't matter because all they want is the book. Whoever wields the book wields the power. They don't care about God, but the fact that he does. Yes, he survives, but not very long. He lives long enough to like recite the Bible and then dies, and that's it. And you're like, see, that's kind of cool. It's a little bit more ambiguous until right at the very end. You're like, fuck, he's right. That's cool. But I think
we should also say to our listeners, if you're interested to hear more about the Book of Eli, be sure to check out episode 127 of Midnight Double Feature presentation, where Zoheb and Colin cover the Book of Eli 2010. That's episode 127. Yeah. Once again, episode 127. Plug. Get our numbers up. Thank you.
No, I don't I don't mind the religious angle. I just be more ambiguous about it. I really dig that where it's like maybe a guy who, because you can ditch the whole butterfly angle of it. I don't understand that and add an ambiguous religious kind of thing going on because you're already kind of there. It's like, he seems like he is a light in the darkness, literally. Like there's kind of, and then she has the weird butterfly tattoo on her neck and it's like, what is the symbolism here? I don't understand.
Yeah, it feels very half-assed because they've set it up, but they haven't knocked it down because they just do it without kind of explaining it. And this is like, for all that time that they weren't spoon feeding us, this is the fucking time to give us something, and they didn't. And that's like, for me, this is like why this film is, it's one of the big elements of why this film is not great and why I don't think it's fucking amazing. It's because like the whole third act kind of makes no sense. Which we haven't even touched on yet, but we're getting to it, so I think it's fair to say. Yeah.
It all kind of wraps up pretty quickly because it's like they argue about there being no God. He shows her the lab. He's got the subject on ice, so she can hopefully.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but we should also mention we haven't really said it, but this sort of element of the film comes out of fucking nowhere. Like this happens at like what points, like maybe. Like an hour into the film, like an hour,
what part?
Hour 10, the whole religious aspect. It's about an hour, 10 minutes into the film. And like, that's like, at this point, you're basically into your third act, you know? You're kind of sort of past the point of no return almost. And there's been no like elements like hinting at this conversation. So for it to play a big element in your third act, it's like, where the fuck did all this come from? If this was set up earlier throughout the film, our conversation might be very different. But
you know what I would love? I would love if Anna were like, I don't believe in anything. I've seen a lot of fucked up shit, but something told me to turn on the radio and I found you and I got to follow that. Cool. Fuck yeah. Go with it. But don't sit there and say it's God. It's definitely God. It's like, I don't even like the term God. It's like something told me to turn on the radio and my instincts were just attuned and I found you. And it's like, that's really cool. That's so much more special than a preordained plan. It's like, that's awesome. Like, that's really cool that you just so happen to find each other in the dark. It's like, that's cool. That's beautiful. Like, that's so great. But like, it's just kind of like, it happens because it's already supposed to happen. It's like, well, that's not very special. You know, it's like,
I don't.
The point is, Matt, there's no God. Okay. I'm just trying. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow. Okay. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think anyone else has ever said that before. I apologize to
no
all
one's
Christian,
ever said there's
listeners.
no God.
Our ratings of atheists are going through the roof right now. But
thank God.
Yeah. But I think without dwelling on too much, I think my stance is, I think that stuff is okay to be a character motivation. I think it's totally okay. But I think when it's being used as a major, I think it's fine that she bumped into him because she was on a journey separate to his that was religiously motivated. I'm okay with that. It's when it dives into something that interferes with stuff, that's where it's a big problem for me. I can take or leave the fact that it inspires him to make his decision towards the end. I guess I'm okay with that. You're a bit more harsh. You think it's kind of just all fucked, but like I respect that, and like because I can kind of relate to that too. I feel like this film is dangerously close to getting to the this is too much aspect. I don't think it's too much, but I think if there's just one more sentence on it, I would be like, okay, fuck this, and I'd just tip over the table and storm out because
it's clumsy. It, like you said, just drops in this kind of pseudo religious element. You know, it's like, where did this come from?
Amazingly well. You know, and the whole point of this film is about him becoming "quote unquote" a legend. Like, you should plant the seeds for that, you know. And like this film really does wrap up very clumsily. But before that, what happens? He goes down to the lab with her. He shows her about the body temperature with this female day seeker creature monster. What else happens here? He wears his fucking glasses again that piss me off.
Well, they put Ethan to bed, and this is kind of, you know, this is where the God talk kind of happens. I'm like, all right. And then as they're kind of putting everything to bed and they're having this conversation, that's when they attack. And he's like, okay, well, here we go. The most badass part of this whole attack is when he sets the car bombs off. It's like, oh shit, that's badass, dude. That's so cool. And I love the realistic, like it blows up and it rocks his hearing. And he's like, okay, that's way closer than I thought it was. That's cool.
Yeah. So this action plan, so back up a little bit, you know, they have the talk, you know, about the religious stuff and there's the Bob Marley shit. But like, as the creatures come, it's because, they discover that they followed her home. And then this is where it's really cool. You see how prepared he is. He's done all this cool shit in case they would attack as like a last stand. There's all these bombs and stuff. And it's really fucking cool. But what I'm thinking is like if the test screenings weren't so great because they wanted more action, and they didn't like the ending. It's like, why not just give us more action scenes like this? Let him kill a couple extra of these wannabe zombies instead of just giving us a half-assed religious thing about fate or destiny with a self-sacrificing grenade scene. You know, I would have loved to have more of this shit. With like, you know, as he's going through the house and he's got like he's like fighting with that one of them. It's like biting his neck. That's a cool scene, right? With the staircase too.
Oh yeah, where he gets the screwdriver and he just like stabs it in the leg and it looks down like, fuck you, dude. Like,
yeah, like
I think that's the leader one.
Yeah, I would have loved a lot more of this. Like, it's a cool action scene, but it leaves me wanting more. And I wish we got a lot more. I love that the fact that it's in the house and there's fire everywhere from the outside. Like, it's really cool. Like, this is a cool climax.
It kind of reminded me of Signs with Mel Gibson, like when the thing's in the house and like they're almost like alien-like. I dig the thing that I like is him, you know, him kind of going upstairs and he finds the two of them kind of hiding. Or no, he gets jumped by the leader thing before he gets upstairs. And he gets the assault rifle and he's trying to shoot it and it runs and hides in the kitchen. So he shoots the propane tank and forces it out the other side. It's like, that's cool. I really dig that. It's very tactical. It's very smart.
Yeah. Oh man. And that scene where like, it's like clawing at the roof and Ethan's like under the table or whatever. And he sees the gun on the headstand thing next to the bed. And he's gonna like sneak in to grab the gun before it realizes he's there. Like, that's fucking cool. And he gets all those shots in.
Dude, when all of them are crawling up the side of the house and you're like, dude, HQ is like, oh, abandon the bat cave. HQ is over, dude. Like, get the fuck out of here. I was like, that's like abandoned ship, basically. Like, that's so cool. Cause this is kind of like the all hope is lost, like downbeat in the screenplay, but it's like, this comes really late though. Like it's very, very late.
It's interesting because like, so a lot of like your typical blockbuster action movie will have the cool fight scene, which we got, and then there'll be the moment where you think all hope is lost, you know, where the hero is just about to lose, and then there's like some shitty line where it'll be like, haha, you've lost and now I will kill you, and then the character will say something like, there's one thing you're forgetting. What's that? I'm not wearing hockey pants or some bullshit like that. And then he'll like throw a grenade or he'll hit something that the character doesn't know about and he'll save the day. But in this, it's just a self-sacrifice. But we've got the moment where it looks like all hope is lost. So we do get that. But it's just like the comeback isn't exciting. But I always thought that was really cool and cinematic is how they're locked behind this glass wall and the mutants are like smashing themselves against it. It's really fucked up how they're running head first into it all. Like they scream like, look, I can save you. Like this is such a cool scene. It's like, I think it's really intense. Like there's no hope. And he's like, I can fix this. And he's trying to can save everybody. And like they're smashing against the window. It's so cool. It's just, I wish that it ended cool, you know, instead of he just sees a butterfly in the crack, which makes very little sense. So he takes some blood, gives it to her, and then he says, there'll be more of them, so I'll sacrifice myself, and runs at them in an explosion. And then we get and then to close off the film, we get a real half-baked, half-assed narration, which we never had narration of the whole film, from this Anna character as she goes off to a new society, meets them, and gives them the blood. And that ending is so fucking half-assed with the narration and all that. It just, it's such a downer. Right.
Again, I think the whole thing is like, maybe the metamorphosis and the butterfly thing works for him if he finds a reason to live. And he's like, the whole thing is he wants to die. Like, that's not a character arc. He gets what he wants and he dies and he doesn't learn shit. Like, the only thing he learns is like, maybe be a little bit more positive for the next 2 minutes while I'm alive. Doesn't really make any sense. I think if he's like, now instead of wanting to die, I have something worth dying for. That's interesting. That's a lot to me. I would love it personally if the all hope is lost moment is they can't find Ethan, but they have to run downstairs anyways. And when they go down there, boom, they've got Ethan. They're like, give us the woman or we're going to fucking kill this kid right here. Like, oh shit.
Are you trying to rewrite this movie? You keep coming up with these ideas. They're so much better than what we got. Like, look,
No, I mean,
ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pitch that I Am Legend, the reboot, is written and directed by Colin here, because I think that is the best case scenario, and it stars Michael B. Jordan. Boom, done.
My thing is, it also shows that these mutant things are like, we're not so different. Like, why don't you live to fight another day, lose the battle, win the war, give us the kid, give us her. They take the blood from her. Cool, take her. See you later. What does it matter? You know, now we have this cure. I don't know.
It's just such a shame. It's just such a shame because the alternate ending kind of covered a little bit of that, you know? It kind of covered
honestly,
that they were...
I really feel like that is the original ending, and they were like, okay, they don't like that. We have to go back and kill them off. And it's like, why though? Like, if you would have kept the original ending, you could have done a sequel. You could have done something else. Like you said, this weird shoehorned in narration because, you know, nobody liked the ending. Let's wrap everything up in a bow. And it's like, fuck, man, that's dumb.
Like, oh, they didn't like this. Let's do something 10 times worse. Like, it's like, oh, well, we know like the strength of the film is Will Smith. So you've lost a chance of doing a sequel because you've killed off your main character. With the bankability, you've lost the humanity behind the monsters, so you kind of lose all the nuanced and like, you know, meaningful like conversation you can have from that. And it's shorter and it's more of a rush. Like, all we get is an extra explosion that we didn't get before, and that's it. And a less satisfying ending. This ending. Well, the third act of this movie is. Like, all my faults of this film, they all come in the third act, and a lot of them just comes around from like that 15 minutes of footage from that finale.
Well, and my thing is like, leave the original ending, and there's something really funny that that the director said. I was like, dude, why was there ever a sequel made? Why is there not like an extended universe of this, you know? And this is from Den of Geek. Director Francis Lawrence on why there was never a sequel. There's a direct quote here. He says, Warner Brothers really, 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 really was into coming up with something, and I just didn't know how to do it, he said. I saw very quickly after the movie came out, and I went, people came to see The Last Man on Earth, but we've done The Last Man on Earth. He died at the end of the movie. We can't do it again. But people weren't in love with him as a character. It's not Indiana Jones, like this iconic character that you just want to see again and again. He said, "This dude, get this." He said it felt forced to do a prequel, and that was it. Basically, we would have been doing the movie Contagion, and to do something that's a follow up either doesn't have him in it, or you would have to do something really dumb, which is, you know, scientists have taken his DNA and reanimated him somehow, and that would have been really dumb. So I just kind of bowed out. And it's like, cool, dude. Thank you for doing that. That's awesome.
Interesting. Like, we had a conversation a while ago when we covered Upgrade. I say a while ago because I don't know when this episode will drop. But and we talked about sequels, you, me, and Zohab, and we had different opinions on that of where the story could go. But with that, it's like, at least that is open. Like, that sets up a potential to do a sequel. This film does the opposite. Because what would the sequel be? They kill off the last of the zombies. What would the lesson be? And a prequel would be less interesting because what sells this movie, again, it's the character of the location, you know? And the character of Robert Neville, like, while interesting, it's interesting because of the situation he's in. Like, even if he was alive, like the sequel could be him trying to adjust to new life, but it wouldn't be that exciting. And I don't see that Anna character leading a film. Definitely won't be as bankable as Will Smith. So yeah, this movie, like, not doing a sequel was the right move, but also, like, the right move would have been to have a better ending for this film as well.
Dude, for sure. And like, I also want to throw out one of my favorite musicians is in this movie. He's the voice of the Day Seekers. It's Mike Patton from Faith No More. Holy shit. Like, did you ever play the Darkness game on Xbox?
I played the Darkness 2, actually.
Okay, same thing. He's the voice of the Darkness. That's Mike Patton.
I didn't realize.
And I was like, oh, dude, he did the score for The Place Between the Pines. He's done like a lot of shit. Like, he's very involved in like movies and video games, as well as being in like a Grammy award winning band. Like, fuck, I love Faith No More. But that's pretty much it. You know, I think that's it for I Am Legend. You know, it started off great, fumbled the end. I think there's just a lot of ways they could have fixed that. I think they listened to audiences too much and listened to probably some studio notes, and they were like, listen, this is going to like, I honestly leave it open. Let Robert Neville live. I don't mind I Am Legend 2. I really don't. If he's still alive and they're still racing to find a cure, like, if the movie doesn't have to end with him finding a cure, it can end with him finding a personal cure, saying, you know what, why don't I leave here, because this place is nothing but death and nothing but destruction, and I'm not doing anything productive here. Why don't I get out of here and try to find a life worth living outside these walls? And if I can't find a cure, maybe that sucks, but I found something worth living for. It's like, that's cool. Like, I love that. And in the meantime, you can also still try and find something. And if you don't, it's okay. At least you found people. Like, let it go. It's okay. And that's like, I would love to see that. The fact that she never says, I know you're grieving for all these people, but you can't fix this. It's like, that's never said. Nobody ever says that to him. And that's a problem. Like, his main hang up, and he says it 2 or 3 times, that he's like, this is ground zero. I have to stay here. It's like, why? Why do you have to be the one? Like, it's not your burden to bear. Like, you're not Jesus. Like, let it go, man. Like, live a life. That's all I wanted, was some kind of resolution to that arc. But it's like, no, I will be Jesus and blow myself up and give you the cure. And we'll have a narration to wrap up that everything turned out fine in the end. I was like, Jesus, that's so ham-fisted, dude. I can eat that for fucking Christmas dinner.
Yeah, it's a shame, honestly. Like, it just, like you said, like, it could be a mix of studio notes and all that, but I feel like also it's just like they just wanted to wrap shit up as quickly as they could, because maybe budgetary reasons or time, or who knows, because it really does feel like half-assed, and they rushed the ending as quickly as they could, which is a shame. Or it's the director not wanting to do it. It's like, oh, fine, if I can't have it my way, then fuck you, I'll just do this.
Sure. Speaking of wrapping shit up, guys. No,
nice segue. And that's a good segue, and it's appropriate. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah. Final thoughts. I mean, I do enjoy this movie. It's fine if you don't put your thinking hat on too much. It's still fun. I still really enjoy it. The first half is great. The second half just they couldn't carry that football to the end zone for me, but it's not a bad movie. I would probably say like a 6.5, 7 out of 10, maybe. That's not a bad score. It's kind of middle of the road. There's nothing really. The movie is it's not like, okay, that's beyond saving. No, there's still some stuff you could have tweaked. I think a director's cut would be really good for this. I think that would really flesh out some stuff that we've been poking at and asking questions about. And I don't mind seeing if they did like animated I Am Legend stuff, or they did more comic books or something like that. I wouldn't have a problem with that, extending this universe beyond that. But I think they just tried to wrap up too much stuff in 1:40, and it just didn't really work. But all in all, I'm glad we covered it, though. I really did enjoy it. And I didn't think we'd get this much conversation out of like Jesus analogies and I Am Legend,
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm very similar. I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10. This could have very easily been an 8 or a 9 if they had stuck the landing a bit better and maybe gave us one more like action scene. I think the problem is a lot of the drama is good of like the situations, like there aren't a lot of really memorable moments, I think. And if they'd just given us just 1 or 2 more of that, this film could have been so much stronger. But it's a great performance showcase of Will Smith. And again, like those location, like those set design of like just this world being fucking torn apart is incredible. Yeah, I'm giving it about 7 out of 10. I Am Legend. Not bad. And I had a lot of fun doing this episode, man. Hopefully we can do a lot more. In the meantime, if people are listening and they don't know where to find us, where can they find us?
Guys, you can find us on Facebook at Midnight Double Feature. There's also the group attached to that called the After Party. Everybody's invited. You can find us on Instagram at Midnight Double Feature or Twitter at MDF Pod. Shoot us an email, midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. And please don't forget to stop by, rate and review us on iTunes. Let us know how we're doing. We're always open to constructive criticism, any suggestions, or, anything that you want covered that you think we'd be, good at talking about. Matt, it's been a blast. This has been a lot of fun. You can always catch Matt on the upcoming attractions episodes. Please definitely check those out. Any kind of upcoming news or anything. But in the meantime, you guys have fun, stay safe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.